Hello everybody, welcome to round number 7 of the Tata Steel Masters. I'm Yangyi. This is 8-time Russian champion, Super Grandmaster, hand model. Peter Svidler is with us in the building. Peter, we made it past halftime.
Well, arguably midway through today's round, but yes.
All right. You're smarter than me. That's why we have you here. So what's going to happen today?
I'm still waiting. I even made a tweet about it, which is obviously a momentous occasion in my life. Will somebody finally win a game with black, please?
It's 15-0 in white's favor?
Mm-hmm. It's starting to get on my nerves. It's just unreasonable. In a tournament like this, with such a fresh field, with lots of new and untested faces, and frankly, very fighting spirit, very much in evidence every day. How is it that black still is not on the scoreboard? It's very confusing. So, who's your best bet for a black win today?
Let's have a look. Usually you go with Magnus, but
Yeah.
black against Vichy, not exactly easy.
When was the last time he's beaten him with black in a classical games? He has obviously an excellent record against Vichy, but I think Vichy has been very solid recently against Magnus in classical chess. Hasn't lost very many, and definitely hasn't lost very many with white.
Well, he's lost some black games, but he's held quite a few as well. So I don't know. I don't think Jordan will beat Vitiugov with black. I don't think Dubov can beat Caruana with black. Xiong, you don't know what's going to happen there, but also big underdog.
Yeah, Firouzja has been in stunning form with the white pieces in this tournament. You don't bet against him when he's white. Artemiev So is not a favorite. No,
Feels drawish. No,
yeah,
Wesley
feels very solid. Duda Giri?
Could be. Giri beat Duda last year with the black pieces when Duda played e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, g3, something along these lines. But still, draw obviously is the favorite. Or, well, black is never the favorite to win,
And I mean maybe Kovalev Yangyi, because Kovalev's nightmare tournament sort of continues, and at some point people who have been getting hit so hard, sort of day in day out, might start drifting and might start running into problems even with the white pieces. Although he's been solid and very pragmatic with the white pieces, which I think was the correct approach considering how his tournament is going.
Yeah, the other thing that can happen to you is when you're on 1 out of 6, and I know this from experience, that people will start playing d4, g6 or e4, g6 and saying, okay, even if you're white, you're not getting a theoretical draw. We will make this a fight, even if I'm risking being worse out of the opening. I don't think that's generally how Yangyi approaches things.
Not Yangyi's general MO, but does make perfect sense from a practical perspective, playing against somebody who is probably by this point slightly punch drunk. And we have moves, so.
Where shall we go? Maybe the Magnus game?
Yeah, let's start with the Magnus game. And Magnus, thankfully, I think, goes e4, c5 today. I think giving Vichy some kind of a Rui Lopez or Italian options would have made his life a lot simpler.
Well, he sticks to his main repertoire, so far. Let's basically ask him, do you want to play quiet Seshnikov, sharp Seshnikov, or the good old Rossolimo? And the good old Rossolimo it is.
Yeah, and obviously here, ever since the Carlsen-Caruana match, we've spent seemingly countless hours discussing all the intricacies of move orders here and whether it's better to take on c6 first, whether you castle and go rook e1 and wait for Magnus to play e5. Because I don't think Magnus is very much in the knight f6 school. There's been, I think, a very marked shift and c3 is actually quite interesting. I think Vichy is kind of trying to make Magnus play that variation, right? Because after rook e1, Magnus, I think, is on the record as an e5 player.
E5 will
yeah, there is knight f6 here, which is not really a bad move. But by playing c3, you kind of make black not play e5, and then you can go rook e1 and switch back to one of the main lines of the rook e1 variation.
You do pay a price, though, and c3 is not the main move for a reason. The problem with rook e1 at f6 is very specific: e5, knight d5, knight c3.
Is it the problem, though?
Well, this is a discussion for another day, but this is the critical line, and it involves this knight to c3. While generally, the lines where white starts with c3, after knight f6, black is supposed to be in good shape. Here, e5, knight d5, d4 exists, but it's not really asking a lot of questions. After rook e1 castles, I'm curious what Vichy has in mind, because both d4, d5, or cd followed by d5, and h3, many moves, queen b6, e5, have decent reputations.
I think e5 is very good there, as far as my knowledge goes. But I think there's been some revival of the rook e1 c3 d4 line. I think it's sort of coming back.
What did Smates do yesterday? Was that?
Yeah, that was Smates won a game against Rauf Mamedov in the d4, d5, e5, knight c knight d4. I think he
took him bishop e3.
Yeah, I think that's what he played. Yeah, just takes, bishop e3, queen c1, and then slowly start unpinning yourself. So I think there's been some movement back towards these positions.
The Kwang also had some games, I think, on the black side. So yeah, there is stuff happening. And in Vichy we trust. It's not an approach. I'm sure he's solid and he will analyze this. But it's not the way to play if you want to make a draw. This is what he thinks is an interesting test. Because if you want to make a draw, I think you still go here.
Just the standard mainline Sveshnikov without 95
here.
Vichy will never be in trouble.
Will manage here after c3 or c4 if you want.
Yeah. In his sleep, he will not run into trouble in these positions. Yeah. And we have two of these today.
Wow! Whoa. Fabian Vichy preparing together.
I just noticed. I wasn't paying any attention, and then I realized we have actually two of these, possibly because Magnus hasn't played castles yet, and there are other moves available to black, but they aren't supposed to be as good.
Is this a coincidence? Do we believe in such coincidences?
Yes, we do.
Carlsen's second, Dubov, has the same position as Carlsen after 7 moves. So I didn't pay much attention in math, but that means if Dubov is Carlsen's second, they have this position, must mean that Vichy Anand was Caruana's second.
Yeah, that is now incontrovertible proof of that particular nonsense. And Fabi goes for an enhanced Smates, which is really weird.
I was hoping you'd explain the basics of correlation, causality. But let's have a look at what's going on. Fabi is doing e5, knight e4, bishop e3. Is this what Smates did? Or
no. He definitely took on c6 first. I'm very confused because you're kind of inviting black to play queen b6 and...
The question is this a good move?
Yeah, maybe it is. And maybe white just goes, I don't know, d takes c5, followed by knight d4, and says I have a very pleasant position. Depends on whether you lose the e5 pawn in the next 3 moves. And also bishop g4 often is a problematic idea. And Magnus says, no thank you to all of your mainline theory. I will just play a7, a6 here. Which I don't think is supposed to be all that great.
Maybe it's another one of those practical decisions, which got him into some trouble against Jordan Way, said he took a practical decision and blitzed down that line. But yeah, mainline theory here, I think, is d5 is clear first, and then cd followed by d5, clear second, and everything else is tight for third till 99th.
And in terms of practical decisions for white, I think just taking on 6 and playing h3 would be my default blitz decision here, because this is a very typical position in these types of variations, where if black gets to play bishop g4, he is instantly fine in most cases. But if you do keep it on c8 for a longish amount of time, I think you are definitely enjoying life more than black does. Although that I think holds more true if cd has already been played, because you want to develop that knight on b1 to c3 and not to g2.
Yeah. I was wondering about some clumsy moves like knight d7. Not that I don't like white after. I thought bishop g5 was a good move.
Yeah, bishop g5 also, but just bishop f4, making sure you do not get to play e5 for free. And then eventually I will get my pieces into play. And this bishop on c8 is just such an eyesore. And
eyesore? Is that some forgotten dinosaur? No.
I'm pretty sure it's a word, but
no, I believe you.
Don't quote me on it. But obviously, bishop takes c6 is not forced. You can play. The bishop can go to any kind of a normal square here. G3, I guess, is my favorite in order to maybe quote-unquote prepare for D5, E5, Knight E4. But it's probably still pretty good for black.
Take?
Yeah, exactly. I'm not sure I'm happy accepting this pawn sacrifice. Although I don't see how it's refuted instantly. Bishop F5, Bishop G4, or what is your plan here?
No particular
Rook
plans,
E1?
just like bishops.
Well, the one on G7 is not as great as all that here.
Yeah.
I think if you play slowly, I might be able to consolidate. Bishop G4 kind of worries me, though.
I guess here.
Yeah, just instantly here. I don't quite see how I hold the structure together without playing GF, and I really wouldn't want to be playing GF, frankly.
So yeah, we just
Take and Bishop F3, and we say, yeah, Queen E4, Knight C6, F4, but yeah, meh.
Worse things have happened.
Yeah, definitely worse things have happened to black in Rosolima's.
At the very least, it does look like A6 took Vichy out of book. We will never know unless he tells us if A6 is deep preparation from Magnus or just a practical decision. Yeah, didn't expect that one. Let's play A6. How bad can it be?
Yeah, not very bad. But I think
well, this could be bad. No, we still haven't.
yeah, no, I like this for white. I genuinely think this is quite unpleasant in many cases for black.
How do you react to direct stuff?
Well, normally you play d5 and you say this Grunfeld is not. But maybe e6, d6, e5 might work. Yeah, because if I get to play knight c3, shaking all these structures will be...
I was wondering about b5, but yeah, let's...
Yeah. I think you kind of have to play e5, but it might work. This is the issue. And this is like a typical Grunfeld reply to these things. You force the pawn onto the d6 square, and then you start fighting against the e-pawn ever connecting with it. Knight e5, rook e8 is some kind of a mess, which probably favors black. And if you don't have that move, then the pawn on d6 might become slightly weak. But Vichy quite quickly just goes bishop d3, says, no, don't need to do that.
Give me that pawn on e4. Is that also what he's saying?
Maybe, yeah.
We will probably find out pretty quickly. So Tekyan is busy, which does not have to discourage you from the talking.
Yep. It still somehow does, because I actually wanted to know how to do what you're currently doing, and now I know. Bishop d3, as mentioned, of the non-bishop takes e6 moves, is by far the most logical, because it does stop the one source of instant counterplay that black often goes for here. Is there any argument at all for cd4, knight b4?
I thought about it, man. I thought probably he will go away.
And now we go g5, e5, knight e4, and we pretend it's all according to plan.
The
but
horsey.
Yeah, I don't really like it.
Knight c3, bishop f5. Maybe you can make a case, but it looks like something.
No, it looks like we gave up. Yeah, we gave up so much time for it, and yeah, Magnus just blitzes out g5. That was always going to be the most logical continuation. Just throwing down that gauntlet, saying, I don't believe the pawn sacrifice can be accepted, or at least I don't believe I'm worse if you do accept it. Let's put it like this. And
I have a feeling he might not be freestyling. No, he's making moves quickly.
Yeah, I think this could quite easily have been something that has been looked at some point. And I mean, if you are playing g6, bishop g7, you do need a reply to c3, and I mean, it's not unreasonable. He has played a couple of world championship matches, and his opening preparation has become a lot more solid and well-rounded.
As we know, he does not waste time going to the barber, so he can spend quite some hours on the g6 Rossolimo. Let's welcome everyone watching, because I'm being told we have thousands of viewers. Are you a little nervous?
I am extremely nervous, yes.
So first of all,
not because of the thousands of viewers. I'm just a very anxious person by nature.
Are you though? I think you're more confident in your skin than you let on.
It's
comfortable in your skin, maybe?
Neither, but my reply would be neither, but I understand this is exactly the argument we're having here. So, moving on.
All right. So, hello, Chess24 chat. That's the chat we've been following all these days. And in that chat, Mr. Dodgy is saying, Jan, go say hi to Twitch. You're on the front page. This is exciting. Hello, Twitch. This is Chess. My name is Jan Gustafsson. I'm a chess grandmaster. Not a bad chess grandmaster, but not a world-class chess grandmaster. So, in order to give us all the insights, we brought in Grandmaster Peter Svidler. You can follow him on Twitter. His handle, his nick, see, I don't speak internet. Yeah. What's Twitter handle? Yeah. Is at Paul Borta. He's an 8-time Russian chess champion. He has an excellent haircut, no matter what his wife tells him. He has defeated Garry Kasparov in the year 1996, which for you millennials is when you were around 13, because if you were born in 83, you're still a millennial. So Peter Svidler knows a lot about chess. He has competed in this very tournament we're covering, which is the Tata Steel Masters, the first super tournament of the year, featuring the likes of reigning world champion Magnus Carlsen, former world champion in pretty much every discipline, living legend, the 50-year-old Vishy Anand, the vice world champion, and another man that does not spend a lot of time at the barbershop, Fabiano Caruana, born in Miami, raised in Brooklyn, then moved to Italy for a while. Now he's a resident of the United States of America. He's facing the rapid world champion of the year 2018, Daniel Dubov, and so on and so forth. The list goes on. This is a very exciting tournament because we have a mixed field of experienced veterans and young stars. The youngest and starriest of all, Alireza Firouzja, 16-year-old phenom, hails from Iran, now lives in France, and is leading the tournament together with Wesley So, one of the more established players. That's my speech. Now, back to chess.
That has been a very, very impressive speech, I have to say. I'm very proud to have witnessed it live. Having the best seat in the house.
All right.
Right next to all the shouting.
How's Jordan doing?
Is Jordan a habitual French player?
He's a habitual line stepper. And his repertoire, Jordan van Foreest, the 20-year-old Dutchman, has been growing a lot over the years. But to answer the question, no, his main line, I would say, is the Najdorf. He's also a habitual e4, e5 player, and then some goofy Spanishes. But the French is a bit of a surprise, especially against Nikita Vitiugov, who you know well. He's from your city, and he wrote books about the French defense.
Yeah, literal books on the topic, and has been a well-established, good player of the French defense on the black side of it for years and years, and is now actually trying to remake himself into a 1e4 player. Has been a g4, c4 player, I think, for the vast majority of his career, but I think starting maybe in the mid to late 2018, and definitely the entire 2019 has been spent by Nikita, playing as many open games as possible, and kind of making himself into a more rounded player, into a player who is a lot less easy to prepare for, which is, I think, a huge advantage once you start playing in the tough fields. And he should actually start getting more and more invites.
I asked Jordan if at the handshake that in chess usually people do before the game, he could tell Nikita Vitiugov, "Hi Nikita, glad to meet you," but he wasn't a big fan of the idea.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Nikita is. This probably doesn't rise to the level of things that could earn you a bit of a slap, but
he could give you an icy stare.
Yeah, but he will do his best. We are not amused impression, and then you'd feel bad for the remainder of the game.
But inside, he'd be cracking up.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, he'd be ruffling inside.
All right, let's talk French. So there's two main moves here if you're not a Rubinsteiner. Bishop b4 and knight to f6. Knight to f6, somewhat more popular nowadays. One big reason is that after bishop g5, both d4 and bishop e7 are in good shape. So usually white plays e5, knight fd7. Here, the main move is f4. But especially if you get the French sort of unannounced, you're not always comfortable looking black up what line he has in mind here. There's all these sharp queen b6 businesses. There's a6, b5, whatever. There's a million lines here. So Nikita plays a line that I have always liked. Knight ce2, not a main move, but I think people are aware this is a serious move. c5, c3, knight c6.
But I'm very confused by knight f3 though, because I thought you were supposed to play f4 here. I thought the whole point was that you create this extremely long pawn chain, and you make sure that c takes d4 can be met by c3 takes d4, but you still want f4, knight f3, and then knight g3, bishop d3, and so on. Knight f3 confuses me a little bit here.
I think knight f3 is a critical move. f4 is the old theory, and you do all this weird stuff with g3, running with your king somewhere. But black has been sort of okay there. Knight f3 has been played by the likes of Magnus, Carlsen in this position, so it's not exactly a fresh move. I believe usually the plan is to play a3 more often than not, and then depending on circumstances, you either want to go knight g3 or knight f4, bishop d3. And if you're not bothered, you just have a very pleasant position somewhat.
But that's a very, very large if in all of these range positions, of course. And black should be trying, I think, to challenge the white center as early as possible. Although maybe with the knight coming to f4, pushing for the f6 break could become a lot more.
Yeah, it's not that straightforward. Queen b6 is a move here, then people usually play a3 and then f6. And if you want drama, you can start looking at knight to f4 here with very sharp positions. But Jordan quickly decides to, play a useful move in any case, bishop e7. Preparing f6, maybe preparing castles.
a3 blitzed out anyway.
Well, yeah, you always need a3. Just an all-around useful move to stop. Well, bishop b4 check wasn't coming anytime soon, but preparing b4, stopping any knight g3, cd, queen a5. You need a3. And El Notorio does agree with you and plays f4 here as well.
Well, I might actually stop doing that and start playing knight f3 because...
Little known fact, Nikita, if you're afraid of, let's say, the Rubinstein, you can play like this. Or the Wiener, I should say, not the Rubinstein. We're not really stopping the Rubinstein.
And c takes d4 is not great here?
Knight e4, great position.
Okay. I think what we're trying to say here is that black French is a rotten opening and you can do whatever you please against it.
Oh, for sure.
That's what I'm hearing. I don't know how true that actually is, but that is the impression I'm getting here. And we will continue with the roundup. But somewhat surprisingly, after bishop d3, g5, e5, there is now a very significant pause in the Anand Carlsen game. I just assumed the knight would be on e4 at the speed of light, but playing g5 and then not playing knight e4, I don't quite understand.
Maybe he's having second thoughts about giving Vichy a pawn. And again, knight e8 still
really,
not really look very pleasant.
It's a bit too late though, because yeah, if you play something like knight e8 or knight d7, I think you're just worse.
Maybe he noticed that after knight e4, c4, he's losing a piece and he wants to keep that. I'm being half tongue-in-cheek, but is this a move?
Yeah, it's definitely a move. We should have... I mean, e6 does exist. Like if all else fails, we do have a 7 e6 as a fallback position. There might be some other ways to keep the material, but yeah, this is kind of scary. I mean, sometimes bishop f5 doesn't lose, but I have a feeling this may not be one of those times. You might have to play e6. It's not that horrible though, because c4 does, c4 does undermine the white structure as well.
It's a weird moment to pause for sure, unless he's roaming around. And again, after d5, you usually stay at the board, expecting e5 to be blitzed out, I guess. Kevin Walker is saying, "Can you please stop talking chess? Where do you get your suits?" Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there. I have a debate with our Dutch friends, because we have this chat group where Jordan is in and Anish is in, and where we talk nonsense, not much chess, but a lot of nonsense being talked. And I was saying that I think, because there was some debate, is Jordan dressed up enough for Vike? Does he have enough suits? And my point was that we can get him a perfectly good wardrobe for €1,000. I was saying like 2 to 3 suits, bunch of shirts, belt, shoes, And these, these high society people like Anish and Luke van Vele, they were saying, zero way you need to spend like 5,000.
No.
And I think they're living in their HISO bubble. And I think 1,000. You can get 2 perfectly fine suits. Bunch of nice shirts, shoes and belt.
Yeah, but I mean, Senator Van Vele has
Of course, he has
very
different
high
resources,
standards.
we
Yeah.
understand. But still, well, Anish, he usually wears these, or I guess he has to wear a lot of, he's a sharp dresser, but often he wears the suits provided by his sponsor, Optiver, I think, with the big logo on them. So he doesn't know what stuff costs anymore. Ask him what he thinks a liter of milk is the other day. He said, I don't know, like 20 euros. He's completely out of touch with the world.
No, I'm pretty sure he was pulling your leg on this one, no?
No, I made up that story. I'm kidding, Anish.
Although, in his defense, I just bought 2 liters of milk and I have no idea what I paid for them.
Oh, I'm very conscious. I always buy the cheap one for 69 cents, and I think, "Ugh, stop putting bio on stuff and charging me double. Come on, Germans." All right, more chess maybe?
Yeah, potentially some more chess.
I'm reading, speaking of Anish, that Anish did
Whoa.
not follow my martial recommendations. And
I know this line.
so do I. It's
I've been one of the people who were developing this line way back in the day. It's based hugely on my games. The theory here brings back a warm smile. I obviously don't remember a single thing, but I won a very important game against Miki, I think, in the Elista Olympiad in '98, from starting from the position they have on the board right now.
Yeah, let me give standard speech. So this is the marshal where black sacrifices a pawn for an attack. He wants to go bishop d6, queen h4, attack the king. The old main move is d4 here. Then after bishop d6, rook e1, queen h4, g3, queen h3. The big pawn is after rook e4. Black goes g5, and if bishop takes g5, queen f5. Attacks 2 pieces. g5 is played to stop rook to h4, chasing the queen away. That is the reason why white players have started playing the more humble-looking move d3. The idea being that after bishop d6, rook e1, queen h4, played in the game, we'll get to that, this is a surprise. g3, queen h3, rook e4. There is no g5, because now after g5, bishop takes g5, queen f5 does not attack 2 pieces. And the more established school of thought here is that black should not play queen to h4 and instead play bishop f5. When after queen f3, there's a bunch of interesting moves. I covered both rook e8 and queen h4 in my chessable repertoire, and I believe both are okay. But Anish, he goes queen to h4 anyway, and that's not mixing up moves or being confused about anything. He's not confused. He is saying, all right, I know this is considered to be not so great, but please, sir, show me the money. Have you really repeated this line before the game? Do you know details here, Jan Krzysztof? Because if you don't, I quite like my chances. And this is not exactly pleasant. Like if you let computers run in this position, which I've done, and I'm pretty sure Anand has done so longer than me, they will show white pluses, but it's not the end of the world, and it's very confusing stuff. So I thought I can't really give this for a lifetime repertoire, but I very much like Anish's approach to play this in one game unannounced, because you also don't usually expect a marshal from Anish.
Yeah, and on the previous topic, vice versa says, I like suits. If I wear one, I actually look intelligent. Why do you think we're wearing one every day? That didn't work because you...
Oh, okay. I think we look smart with suits, without suits.
No. Knight g2, I think, is supposed to be, or at least used to be, the main move in this position. The pawn on d3 does not actually hang because you can go rook d4 and pick up the bishop on d6. And I think my game against Miki continued g5, rook h6. There's a lot of really weird positions here. This is one of them, knight g4, knight e4, knight h6, knight d6, and I ended up winning this. It was a nice game, and also that was the first time ever I played board 1 for the national team, so it was important to occasionally win a game or two. But I think in those years, I remember my final conclusion was that black actually holds this position if he knows what he's doing. Perhaps with the obviously much stronger computers today, the evaluation has shifted, but That's one of the lines. And also after knight d2, black can try playing quieter moves. There is all kinds of c5s and bishop b7s and rook e8s everywhere.
Yeah, I'm reading knight d2 refutes Anish's concept. He's aware of knight d2, don't worry. But yeah, I'm curious to see which one he's going to go with.
Knight d2 not played yet, but still we expect it to be played. There's also a very attractive idea of playing d4 or bishop c2, but I think to that they reply with queen g6, bishop f5. I'm not entirely sure. I think it's important not to allow bishop c2 in a good version of bishop c2 here for white. But the thing with d3, d4 in this position is that if you do that, your rook on h4 really is completely locked out. It's very, very difficult to bring it back. And black can just go for like long-standing positional compensations simply because of how cut off that rook is. And Yangyi actually does play bishop c2.
No, not the critical move. Should have gone knight c2, Yangyi, when, as pointed out by One Trick Pony in the Chess24 chat, the computer line goes knight g4, f3, knight e3, queen e2, knight d5, c4, and enjoy yourself if you did not repeat this before the game. So yeah, I like Anish's approach here.
Yeah, but also not entirely sure if any of this is actually forced, because I'm pretty sure you were supposed to, once again, in the olden days, you were supposed to play knight g4, knight e4, and that wasn't supposed to be any good for black. I'm pretty sure it wasn't f3. Knight e4, bishop e7, f3, I think, is how we were supposed to react to this. And bishop c2, gratifyingly for me, has been instantly met by queen g6 by Anish, meaning that at least some of what I said was not in complete nonsense. This is maybe a slightly better version for white compared to the immediate d4, because we haven't actually locked the rook out as horribly as we would have in the other line, but still definitely not the central line of the variation.
Defenestrate is asking, is Shishov really pronounced Shishov as Jan says it? I'm not the leading expert in this room on the Shishov pronunciation, so please, Peter.
Yeah, I mean, the answer is simply yes.
No, but just say it better.
Young Shishov, yeah. It's the correct pronunciation. And
is there like a hint of a K in there? It's not completely mute, right?
Yeah, I think there's supposed to be exactly like a soissons of K.
Sounds good.
I really don't speak French, so I'm hoping that was.
I speak excellent French. Laurent, if you're watching, I know you enjoy the parts where I switch to French greatly. Anyway, Anish, yeah, I'm a fan. I'm biased since I'm a Marshall fan anyway, but particularly of this little Queen h4 surprise line. I really like this, practically. I believe long-term repertoire purposes, still bishop f5 is the move for longevity, but Queen h4 as a one-game thing, very nasty choice. And somewhat surprised that Jan Krzysztof in this position decides to look up Anish, because he's nasty in the opening, as we've seen yesterday, and pretty much every game he plays. What else do we have?
We have a draw by Wesley in the Artemiev So game, which I think will probably not get accepted, but still noticeably.
Artemiev keeps doing this line, huh?
Yeah, well, he was much better and eventually did win his game against Nikita. But today, Wesley does it slightly differently. He doesn't go. I think Nikita went b5 and bishop b7 here, which is perfectly sensible. And Wesley starts with c5, not even committing to b5, and goes bishop b2, knight c6. And they got basically a very normal Queen's Gambit accepted position, but with a bishop on e2 for no reason whatsoever. Right? I'm trying to
looks like a... I'm wondering if it's the exact position. I think it is some Aronian Caruana game, which came via a very different move order. Just to show your point. This is the so-called Queen's Gambit accepted. And I believe Levon went here, which is one of many moves you can make. They played this. I'd have to look it up, but all of this, I believe, happened. And
Yeah, Lev is
right?
actually a fan of all kinds of positions where he can play. He's done this against me in the candidates once, although with the bishop on c4, where it's a lot more dangerous, I believe. But he, in general, is, I think, an aficionado of bishop e3 95 ideas, which is what Wesley's reply is sort of specifically aimed against. The bishop appears on e3. Wesley hits it with a knight g4 move. Obviously, this is not a structure where white wants to allow the trade of this knight for a bishop, so the bishop goes to f4, and the knight simply returns to f6. And you can make an argument that black lost 2 tempi, because bishop f4 is definitely... Yeah, but... well, I mean, hang on a second.
We're going to have the 1 or 2 debate?
Yeah.
All right, make your case.
Yeah, okay. I concede your point as usual, but bishop f4 is a normal move here. It's probably not the best move, but it's very much a normal move. So if we compare, let's say, this position with black to move, and here rook c1 with white to move, it's obviously one tempo, and I'm an idiot, but it's a full tempo. I resign.
Yeah. We had this argument yesterday that it's so hard to have an argument with you, because even when I'm full of it, as usual, you usually concede the points. It's so upsetting.
Yeah, but here, for a change, you're just entirely right, and I've been talking nonsense. But yeah, it's a full tempo. But
what's his point? 95 will regain that tempo?
No, I think the point is specifically that apart from the 95 bishop f3 ideas, white with bishop on c2 really has no play he is worried about. So he says, by doing this, I'm refuting your one idea, and you don't really have any others that I really have to think twice about. I don't know how true that is, but that's clearly the concept. And if you have not seen that video, just tell me you've seen this video.
No.
Oh dear! Like we are in some kind of what's the I can't speak.
Well, what are we looking for?
We're looking for that place where the monsters come from in the Stranger Things.
The Netherjaya? Is that a dirty word?
So we are basically in the Neverwhere, which is a whole other thing, but I feel a lot more confident.
The Upside Down?
Yes, exactly. But I mean, Gaiman references just come much more naturally to me than Stranger Things references. But I'm in the presence of somebody who has not seen the Spanish video, and it boggles the mind.
I like that you say the Spanish video and expect the people to know what you're talking about. Yeah. So I was Googling KEKW, because apparently it's a thing, I'm not aware of it. Some Spanish video called Risitas y las Pellejas is coming up, which I have not seen. And apparently that's something that I should have seen, that everyone should have seen.
Well, everyone has seen it. I'm in the presence of one last person on earth who has not seen that.
Lawrence, have you seen Risitas y Pellejas?
Yeah, maybe Lawrence as well.
Maybe Lawrence. And Magnus, after some thought, apparently has played knight to e8. He's probably seen that Risitas y Pellejas video.
I would be betting on Magnus knowing what that is. Yes,
he knows his nonsense.
And in a very upsetting turn of events, Grandmaster Eric Lobron, hello Eric, says, "Gentlemen, be serious, please. If Eric starts, backstabbing us on this topic, I really don't know what to rely on anymore."
Is this Eric telling us to stick to chess?
Pretty much, yeah.
All right. 98. This can't have been the plan, no?
No, I don't think.
Plan must have been knight e4, and he changed his mind.
Yeah, no, he disliked something about it. We're still unsure what. We could try figuring it out, but it's sort of in the past. I can't believe he likes his position now. Although, I mean, it's still quite concrete. If you get bishop g4 in, maybe you're not that sad. And if you, I would very much like to start by playing h3 here to limit that. But queen b6, do I have a comfortable way of protecting the pawn on d4?
Move the bishop.
Yeah, move the bishop. I'm also wondering if I'm not just much better after d takes c5, frankly. Just dc, knight g2, knight b3, bishop f4, and like, how is white not better there? And including cd4, cd4, queen b6, really it kind of invites knight c3. It invites all kinds of nastiness. So
just general chess culture, which Magnus has so much of. Would say this has to be a bad position. No, you have a French where you're not really attacking the center. Your bishop looks strange on g7. Very surprising. And usually the one trump you have in return is your active knight on e4. So I'm not sure. I used to think like 8 minutes ago that a6 was probably preparation. Now I really doubt he opted for this position deliberately. He also spent 20 minutes. So
yeah,
he basically didn't.
I think connected with the timing in particular, you have to say that something has gone wrong sort of between him playing d5 and him playing knight e8, because this.
Here's a theory that it's just a theory, but assuming a6 was preparation, could it be he wanted to do this and now knight e4 and then start with d5 as you usually do, and maybe c4 bothered him here, or I can't really put it together.
Yeah, I'd like an answer, because it's a strange sequence of events, and it's a curious one, and you always want to know what happened there. But unless he gets interviewed and somebody asks him directly, we're unlikely to know. And c4, yeah, that would be one reason, but I really don't understand why e6 is bad for black here. Just e6 knight c3 or something, but I don't think it's that great. I mean, this I think is exactly what black wants. We take on c3, we take on c4, we go b5, bishop b7, we get. I mean, you sometimes do get mated in those types of Grunfelds, but you also win those positions occasionally. So very double-edged, very nice. And Ilya Joker says, "More chess, please. You've only covered 3 out of 7 games so far, dear commentators." Some truth to that. Although I think it's 4, not 3.
I agree.
Which is very upsetting.
Get your numbers straight.
Maybe even 5. Now that I look at it, we've at least spoken at least about 5 out of 7 games.
Let us now talk about Alireza Firouzja, the tournament leader, together with Wesley So. 4 out of 6, facing Jeffrey Xiong, who is not the youngest participant in the tournament, no matter what Lawrence Strong will make us believe. They have never played before, 16-year-old versus the 19-year-old in this Iran versus, or I'm not sure if we can say it's Iran versus USA, because I believe Firouzja plays under the FIDE flag still. So they are playing the Berlin, maybe the most solid opening known to man. d3, bishop c5, bishop takes c6, one of the many lines here. Usually saying, let's play a strategic game. You will have the 2 bishops, but you will also have double pawns. And especially this bishop on c8 will often be tough to get into the game. After h3, it's tough to find a productive role for this guy. So these structures are very complex. Very often black will try to shuffle his knight around, and white will react accordingly. And that's what we see in the game. Short castles, one of many moves, knight d7, c3, castles. And somewhat surprisingly, even though it's been seen before, Alireza alters the situation in the center by playing pawn to d4. Do you know this stuff? I'm really just making stuff up.
Not really, no. I've tried more than once to wrap my head properly around these structures, and every now and again I would find something that I feel like I understand and is playable, but then black finds new ways of reacting, and I once again don't like it anymore. This looks okay for white. This looks like something that I could have enjoyed playing, but then again, it's like an exchange Spanish with the queens on, and if these types of structures are somehow okay, often even in endgames. They should be fine with more counterplay options available to black, I would say. Actually, what am I saying? In the exchange Spanish, they do get these positions with the queens on as well. I'm very zany today, or zany is probably not the right word, just stupid. There's a specific line. How does that go? That's from a6, bishop c6 takes, castles. How do they get there?
What are you trying to get to?
This exact structure. They
f6, d4, bishop g4? Or
yeah,
c3,
that yeah,
bishop
exactly.
g6?
Yeah, bishop g4, c3, and bishop 6 is the main move here, right? And you get a very similar type of position that they got in the game. If you continue making moves for a bit, we might land in an almost well, I mean the knight is on e7, whereas in the game it's on b6, and probably, yeah, I'm not sure where it's deader, because here it goes to g6, which is not such a bad square, but it can be, I think it's probably preferable on e7. Like if you compare, and let's also play, what did white play? White played rook e1 and black played, let's say, queen e8. So this is the exchange Spanish, and this is what they have in the game. The main difference is the bishop is on g3, not on e3, where it quote-unquote puts pressure on the e5 pawn, but I don't think the e5 pawn is going to become an actual weakness anytime soon. And the knight is on b6, where it's not very active, but it's also stopping the ideas of knight c4. Maybe not immediately, because bishop takes f3 is not something you want to allow, but...
Eric Lobron is telling us rook e3, exclamation mark. And apparently it's his game, Lobron versus Khalifman. Which, yeah, parries the threat of bishop f3 and ed4 and all that, I'm guessing. Looks like a good move.
Yeah, it does appear to be a very logical continuation. Perhaps the other one can come to e1, although once again I don't know why we're doubling the rooks on the e file here, but mainly just freeing up the knight on d2.
You haven't read My System by Nimzovich? It's called Overprotection. You want to cover the e4 pawn like 18 times, and then these pieces sitting behind the e4 pawn, covering it, they will absorb so much energy that at some point there's going to be a giant eruption, I think we call it, of energy, and they will spring into action. And why they get all this energy? By staring at one pawn. Mr. Nimzovich never told us. Overprotection, look it up, it's a thing.
It's definitely a thing. I'm also wondering if white could at some point think about playing a4, like the inclusion of a4, a5. Who does it favor here? Because I think getting a4 and then a5 and then maybe knight c4 later in the game would be something that white would want. But if black actually does meet a4 with a5, the pawn on a5 is not that easy to attack, despite the rook not being on g8 or on a8 already.
H3 played by Ali Reza. He's saying, I worry about nothing. You can take on f3, d4, take anything you want.
I think bishop h5 is the logical reply to this. I don't think.
What happens here?
Well,
take?
Yeah, although d3.
I was wondering if we can zwischenzug him, but maybe we're still worse.
We're slightly worse anyway. Queen d3, cd, knight d4. Yeah. That pawn on f6 is... Knight on b6 is not great, and also black almost never wants to play f7, f6 in these types of positions. So not indefensible, but not anybody's dream.
One Trick Pony is saying, I would love My System narrated by Jan. That would be an audiobook. If I can add my own thoughts, I would love to do.
And there seems to have been an eruption of energy in the Vitiugov game. So let's maybe take a... Well, we still haven't seen one game out of 7, right?
I feel the one we have to scroll down, we always ignore. Oh, and it's an anti-martial, so I can give a speech. Do we want a speech on Kovalev?
That's not an anti-martial. That's actually a 6d3, which probably means I have to give a speech.
That's an anti-martial.
Well, okay.
Anyway, you can give a speech too, if you want to.
Yeah. Well, I feel...
Doesn't matter that I just looked for like 2 months straight at 6d3 for my chessable series. You do the speech. It's not like I'm only competent in the opening and you have 4/5 of the show to give speeches afterward. All yours. Here's the mouse.
Oh dear. 2 months straight, specifically at 6d3.
Now I'm lying to sell courses. What do you think I'm doing?
I feel very guilty.
2 weeks.
Yeah. But I do have a video series available on this topic on this wonderful website, so I felt like maybe I can give a semi-competent speech about this. And 6d3, it is an anti-martial, but I think in the sense that you expect whoever plays knight f6 and bishop e7 in the Spanish these days to be a martial player, but intentions on the black side have not been declared as clearly as they are when black plays castles and move 8 here. So I think 6d3 is generally just called 6d3. I think Viorel Bolagan suggested calling it the Carlsen system, which is an interesting idea, and one, not without merit, because Carlsen has done a lot to promote it with both sides, but still not a given that this will ever happen. b5, bishop d3, d6 is probably the main move, although starting with d6 is also very possible, and people still do that. And here there's a choice mainly between the moves a4 and a3. Allowing knight a5 is not really supposed to be all that great. You can play c3, but that transposes to sort of old style Spanishes, which aren't supposed to be anything much. After a4, there's a whole separate body of theory. There's b4, there's bishop d7, which is arguably now the more fashionable. Stop me when I start saying wrong things. Or not. And a3 is what I mainly concentrated on when I was doing my video series. Black can do, well, any number of things. Here there's the immediate knight a5, c5, which is something I've been playing personally for a while with varying degrees of success. It's not horrible, but it's riskier than I originally thought.
Did you see Mahmoud Yarov Hare Krishna?
I probably have, but I've forgotten. What happened?
Very, very relevant for your line.
Oh,
we can do it off air. It's not really relevant for this particular game, but it's relevant.
Yeah, and a3 castles is the main line, but after knight c3, Kovalev actually does something that is kind of dear to my heart, because I think this is what I played against Magnus in that momentous last round game in the London Candidates, which almost cost him qualification for the Chennai match, which made him the world champion. But I really don't think it's great. It's very curious to me that Yangyi opts for this.
Peter is a bit of a ball hog, but he's also very humble. So we should mention that he won that game against the future world champion in the last round of the London Candidates.
I did not equalize, did not really like my position out of the opening at all, but then it became sharp, and I managed to somehow outcalculate Magnus in severe mutual time trouble there. I think the main line by far these days in terms of volume of top level grandmaster practice, and also I think the evaluation, is knight a5, bishop e2, bishop e6, where the main move appears to be before bishop a2. There are some people who take with the knight, but mainly they take with the rook, knight c6, and there is dozens by this point, I think, games of 27 plus players playing against each other here. And once again, I could continue, but since this did not happen, we could probably stop. The thing with bishop b7 is it used to be like a common sense thing that people were taught that...
Sorry, I'll just change the graphic for 1 second. You can keep...
Yeah, that in Spanish setups, the bishop really should only go to b7 if white plays c3 and d4. Because then the pawn on e4 is constantly, well, not hanging as such, but you have to pay attention to it in pretty much every single position. And the bishop on b7 actually provides significant counterplay against the white center. Whereas in the lines where white goes d3 and d4, there is much less reason to have it on b7, because very often it will be just banging its head against this pawn pair and not really do anything. And playing bishop b7 in this specific position is discouraged, and not very many people have been doing it. And actually going bishop e6 and trading it for the bishop on b3 does appear a lot more logical. Also, notable mention has to go to the move bishop g4, which I think there's been some shift in attitude towards this, and white started getting a little bit of something in these lines. But I remember when I was preparing the video series, that was some years ago, I really couldn't make much headway here for white, and I still think that It's just not very fashionable anymore, but it's perfectly playable, and black shouldn't be really doing that badly. But bishop b7, followed by queen d7, followed by knight d8, knight e6, is something that they do in other anti-martials. Very notably, this is a plan borrowed from rook e1, b5, bishop b3, castles, h3, bishop. Oops, not h4, h4. This is not a Leela position where I should go h4. h3, bishop b7, d3, d6, a3. And here black definitely does play queen d8, knight, queen d7, knight d8, knight e6. Maybe not the best option, but definitely an option that exists and is sensible. But the big difference is, after h3, you're sort of supposed to play bishop b7. There's really not very much choice if you don't want to play the mainline Spanish with after d6 and c3. And here, back to my speech, you have options. The bishop is still on c8. Why are you limiting yourself to those? And on that note, I'm actually kind of short of breath. Also, we probably lost about 500 to 700 viewers, and I would like to start talking about something else.
Also, 2015 called and it wants its theory back.
Yeah. Many of those points are still valid, I'm pretty sure. Maybe not all, but...
But people are wondering, what has Nikita been doing?
Has he actually blundered knight takes d4?
So a3 castles, knight f4. I'm somewhat intrigued by this, but yeah, let's move forward, because queen a5, very direct move. And Nikita goes bishop d3. I'm assuming the point is cd b4. But Jordan takes with the knight. Now b4, there's a Zwischenschach, knight takes f3. After knight d4, cd. b4, what's going on?
Queen c7, I assume.
cd, check on c3?
Check on c3 is kind of awkward to me, right? Because you actually, not to lose the rook, you have to play bishop d2, and now we can take on d4, because there's no bishop h7, there's something in the way of the queen on d1.
So, has he blundered?
Well, Champy mentioned the knight takes e6, queen h5 idea, but just sort of common sense dictates that this probably is at best some kind of a perpetual in the current position after cd4. And he might actually have to go for it, because like if you don't have immediate tactics, you probably are on the verge of resigning here. The immediate queen h5 also a move that...
Does it draw? g6 take a bunch of times? Looks like draw.
Well, it looks like draw, and there is also, I mean, you have to say that if you're really brave, you can try h6 here. I don't see why it loses. Might be very risky, but don't currently see what's wrong with it. And this is the line that was also, yeah, but h6 no draw, says Jasper Leikart. Yeah, knight e6, fe, queen g6, it looks scary, but I think it's only one check after knight takes e5. Knight e6, bishop h6, maybe?
People are saying, nice, I'm not mentioned as people. Okay, so queen h5, h6, no way through.
Well, I think variation definitely continues, like knight e6 in particular here. Knight e6, fe, bishop h6. We would have to find moves for black. Here.
I didn't hear what moves you mentioned.
Knight e6?
Knight e6?
Fe, bishop h6, maybe. Although knight takes e5 is still, I think, a very large problem. Well, knight e5, queen e5? And then maybe bishop f6 and start picking stuff up on the queen side. I don't know. Very strange position.
Not fun for Nikita having to decide between probably a draw. I hesitate there because I wasn't sure. After g6 and a mess after h6 though, right? Unless we have something more than a draw here.
No, I don't think we do. I think giving up the pawn on e5, which would result, any queen move pretty much would result in the loss of the e5 pawn. Then the attack disappears. Yeah, and Jordan on 130 is also a bit of a discomforting thought. But the thing is, you really have to play queen h5, it feels to me, because I don't think this is a kind of position where you can continue quietly, hoping to get some kind of a long-term compensation.
Yeah, Jordan has been very well prepared, especially impressive in his white games. But also the black game he lost to Jeffrey, I don't think was because of the opening where he blitzed out 20 moves, but then more because of a mix-up around move 21. I was watching the interview with Vichy Anand yesterday by Tom Bottomer on the official channel. Big fan of the Tom Bottomer interviews. And the first question was, Vichy, you guys are not able to beat Jordan. And then Vichy went on to praise him, that Jordan was actually very well prepared and very resourceful.
Yeah, and we have an important question that needs to be addressed in the Twitch chat. Reasonably Priced Suit says, Grandmaster Jan, ask Grandmaster Peter, why does he speak with so many litotes? For instance, not without merit, meaning with merit. It's basically, I have this firmly held belief that there's absolutely no reason to use 3 words when you can use 13.
I thought it was a Russian thing, that if you can use a double negation, then you always have to use it.
And also I've mispronounced litotes, apparently it's litotes. But I was correct about the much many thing though, pretty sure. So yeah, it's just, I think it, I pretend to be smarter than I am, and that's one of the ploys I use.
No, I think you pretend to be dumber than you are.
Very difficult. Anyway, do we see
Case rested.
do we see anything else apart from Bishop Queen H5?
I would love to see Nikita's angry stare. Probably not at Jordan, but if he can find some mirror, he's probably gonna give himself a death stare for ending up in this position. And no, you can't just give him all the pawns, so you better do something fast, no? Before Queen C7 does not seem to work.
No,
Queen H5 is off the table.
Yeah. And there's been more than one question about Queen H5, F5. I've been wondering about that myself, but I think Knight takes E6 is a problem. I couldn't make it work.
We're also told that computer gives Knight takes E6 directly, maybe just trying to force the issue with Queen H5.
Yeah,
if I read that right.
I have also seen that suggestion. It confused me, but maybe I thought Rook F5 was very strong, but then Queen E8 check is probably why the machine is suggesting it, with the intention of playing. Bishop F8 might even, Bishop F8 Queen E6. Rook F7, Bishop H7, and I guess White actually made quite a bit of progress here. Won back some material. Also, the black pieces are not really where they want to be.
All right.
First black win today, perhaps, says Lord Flashheart.
Nah, Jordan has made draws in better positions.
It is actually a valid point here. Yeah, the draw he accepted against Fabi was in a much clearer, safe, better endgame, I think.
What I'm trying to say is, and this is meant as zero disrespect, that it could be tempting to play G6 here, either directly after Queen H5 or after Knight E6, Fe, Queen H5, make a quick draw with black against a higher rated opponent and go home. Like, I would find a way to talk myself into G6, even if my gut would tell me H6 is a good move.
Yeah, the one thing arguing against that is the 130 on his clock, because if for some reason this is critical and he actually checked it with the machine and the machine just says H6, no mate, extra pawn, go play, then I think it becomes a lot, like when you actually know you're much better, it's the struggle to convince yourself not to play on becomes a lot more difficult.
We should also note that Jordan is not a crazy person like us, so maybe the struggle does not really exist in his head, but he has taken draws in decent positions the last 2 games. Even though against Vichy, some people were giving him a hard time. I never thought he had winning chances, and even the final position didn't look like there was much going on.
Yeah, that position I think Vichy definitely plays on against Jordan, but Jordan not playing on against Vichy I think is a reasonable practical decision, because not very many people actually beating Vichy from that starting point.
That, and also if anybody was worse in that game, it was Jordan, except for the very final position when I think he was dreaming of a draw for the last.
I realized why F5 is the machine's first choice. I really am.
H5 F5, yeah.
Yeah, I'm really being an idiot today. 96, 95 is very strong.
Wow. Speaking of No. Bad segue. But we are delighted that we have Zlatan56, Grandmaster, Laurent Fressinet, sometime, Magnus Carlsen, trainer, coach, sometime, Chess24, French Hondo in the chat. And he is saying, machine says F5, smiling. How are you doing, Laurent?
Probably fine.
I guess so.
Yeah. So we'll wait for Nikita to play Queen H5 here, and we'll probably return to this. But for now, let's have a look at some other stuff. Fabi gave up the pawn on E5, which is quite notable, I think, in itself. I guess with the intention of playing F3, but F3 hasn't been played yet. This position has been on the board for a while, and Fabi has been thinking. So I guess he's maybe choosing between F3 and Bishop H6 followed by F3, because I really don't see much else he could be debating here.
Also notable, Dubov, another of these 130 on the clock types.
Yeah. The thing is, though, he is ridiculously well prepared and also perfectly capable of bluffing.
He's also confident enough that he could just blitz out 10 moves, thinking, okay, these moves look good, I'll just make them.
Yeah.
But here I'm going with well prepared. This Rostolimo has been his bread and butter for years now. And I'm sure he is aware that this exists. And he's done his homework as usual.
Yeah, in particular in the Bishop b5 g6 Sicilians, you can never really confidently bet against Daniel, just knowing the answer, having looked at everything over and over and over in here from the black side. But I have seen him play extremely quickly and then admit after the game that he got blindsided by something and has decided to bluff his way out of it.
In his defense, there was the World Blitz Championship.
Well played.
All right, so Fabi has taken some time here. DC, Rook b3, winning the pawn, but putting baby in a corner. Queen a1, b4, queen to a4, knight to d4. Interesting choice.
Yeah, a very committal decision, but black, if you give black enough time to play something like a5 and start undermining a structure on the queen side, your position could become strategically risky. So not a very surprising decision. And the current position is extremely sharp because f3, knight f6 on the board. After knight bishop h6, I assume the only move is bishop takes d4.
If bishop goes somewhere, you take on e7,
Yeah.
not f8?
Yeah, I think.
Say, well,
Yeah,
take this, huh?
bishop f8, king f8 would have been maybe playable for black, but rook e7 worries me greatly. Followed by queen g5 and mate in some kind of, well, not mate exactly, but worries me greatly. I still stand by. But yeah, you can take on d4 and go rook e8 in that position, unless I'm missing something. You can also take on d4, maybe take on b4. Maybe that's even smarter.
So you do take on d4 first, right?
Yeah, I think we take here, but I think queen takes b4 might be very smart here.
Okay. After bishop d4.
Yeah.
Not before.
I keep on stumbling into these things, yeah. Because here, if you take on f8, I take the pawn with check, and then I pick up the bishop on f8. I think black is just better. At least that's how it looks to me. Maybe white can hold with precise play, but I'm taking black here any day of the week. And it's not just the pawn on b4, it's also a very important tempo, and the queen gets closer to the defense of the king side, which is hugely important. Because if you go rook e8 here, after something like queen f4 or queen g5, queen takes f6 is a kind of a scary threat. We still have queen takes b4, so maybe even this is playable, but I wanted to include queen b4 as early as possible to maybe distract white from all of these attacking possibilities.
Yeah. So f3, knight f6, and Fabi's thinking.
Well, maybe bishop.
Could you make a case for
f2,
some
yeah.
very passive move somewhere? I'm not sure. D2, F2, F4.
I mean, of those three, probably f2, right? To take on d4 with the bishop.
Yeah.
But we we play bishop e6, and we say, yeah, it's a bit awkward, but we currently are a pawn up. Queen g5 though. Yeah, this is maybe the way to go. Actually, I like this better than the previous lines. Still, I guess we just allow you to take on f6. We play something like a5 here and start undermining the queen side.
a5 is annoying. Do I have time? I guess not. Nah, exactly. Yeah, complex. Dubov seems to know what he's doing. Fabi will have to show us something here.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about Daniil Dubov? Where is he from? What makes him tick? How did he get so ripped? What does he eat for breakfast? How can he go to the gym and do 1 hour straight of pull-ups with weird heavy weights attached to his leg? He looks so slight, but he's a machine. How did it happen?
You actually know him, or at least have spent a lot more time with him than I have. What I do know about him is that he is sort of wildly famous in the narrow circles, as the Russian saying goes, for flaunting the current FIDE dress code rules by wearing Balenciaga sweaters to games. And
so is he telling people, do you have any idea what my Balenciaga sweater cost? Think I'm going to wear a €150 suit like these commentators instead of my $500 Balenciaga sweater?
You're lowballing it greatly there.
I have no idea what a Balenciaga sweater costs. It's more, yeah?
I actually know what that particular one costs. Yeah, 500 doesn't cut it. It's a black Balenciaga sweater, which is that's the fourth one.
865?
The fourth, yeah.
Ah, 495. You can get a Balenciaga sweater for 500.
Yeah, but you can, but he didn't. So yeah, that's,
living the life, huh?
He is living some kind of a life, definitely. Very, very interesting guy. In Russia, probably, I don't know, that somewhat died down, but he did make a lot of waves with the interview he gave instantly after winning the World Blitz in 2018, which...
Were some politics statements in there?
Yeah, contained some political statements, which were...
So did he buy that Balenciaga sweater after he got the 60K for winning the World Rapid?
I think he got it in Isle of Man, and he was doing really poorly in that tournament.
So it was before, so he wanted to reward himself, or not reward, but motivate himself, give himself a nice little gift.
Before what?
I don't know, I'm making stuff up. Before the Rapid, or was it in Isle of Man this year?
This year.
Ah, okay, sorry.
This year. It's a very recent sweater.
Where do you stand on sweaters that have giant brand names on them, like Balenciaga?
Not a fan.
Versace. I feel I can't do it anymore. I would, but I feel it's a young man's game.
Yeah, I think that explains our attitude. We're just old miserable gits by this point, and it heavily influences our opinions on many things. But yeah, Daniil, very, very interesting guy with a lot of strong opinions on all kinds of stuff. Also, self-proclaimed card shark, and as Jan alluded to, ridiculously ripped for somebody who looks smallish. We're fans.
Hudvison saying, I feel like Peter is more the Louis Vuitton type of guy, right? I don't know.
Why would you say that to me?
Is that a compliment in insult? I can't tell.
that's a slap in the face in my world.
Why? LVMH? Great company.
Okay. If you say so. I still stand by my previous statement.
Queen A3 played by Fabi, which I read on the chat. Computer says Queen A3. I decided to ignore it because it felt like, okay, you don't want to exchange queens here. But apparently you do. Cthulhu is saying, I thought Gucci. I like Gucci.
Yeah, I'm Gucci without Gucci. Thank you.
Oh.
Anyway, we've been concentrating on this for a while. Maybe let's revisit what's happening in the maybe Anand game. There's also been some confusion in chat about the Duda Giri position. People were saying, I don't understand what that rook is doing on h4. Well, nobody does. That's like the entire point of the line. White is a pawn up, he gets to develop his pieces. But also there's this rook on h4, which is exactly why black is not resigning. So you still.
So no comment on Queen A3 whatsoever? Forcing the queens off?
I'm trying to process this idea and failing. Bishop d7 appears to be a move, also taking on d4, and bishop e6 doesn't get refuted instantly. Although there I can understand why white has a tremendous amount of compensation. And
Konopai is saying, more chess, less talking, please. That's confusing. More talking about chess I'm used to, but more chess, less talking? How exactly?
yeah, be more constructive with your feedback. Knight h4, e4 is quite concrete. Knight h4 is not an obvious option. And e4 basically, Jeffrey accepts the challenge. Bishop takes d6 played. There's now once again the debate whether you want to play d3 here or not.
First, the point is rook d6, knight f5.
Yeah. There's also the move d3 here, but it doesn't quite work because that knight actually collects a lot of heavy pieces along the way. dc, knight e8, rook e8, and probably g4 followed by rook c1 is the stopping bishop d1 might be important here, but the pawn does get picked up, and yeah, that's unplayable for black. So, and Lawrence with a thinly veiled brag about having friends in chat. And then with a thinly veiled brag about bragging about having friends and suits and discounts.
And great taste.
Yeah. Can a brag be even more thinly veiled than this?
Not from Lawrence.
Yeah. So let's revisit the rook on h4. The rook on h4 is still there. Not a huge surprise.
Anish, yeah, we had some questions about WTF, why Anish play queen h4 and not bishop f5, which everyone and their dog knows is the move. So does Anish. This is, yeah, a tricky line. I think for one game, and I really like it as a surprise weapon. It's supposed to be not great after rook e4, but as we briefly touched upon before, here the main move is knight d2, and the computer line goes something like knight g4, f3. Knight e3, queen e2, knight d5, c4, which God knows what's happening, and you have to be into some serious detail here to earn your 0.60, whatever the computer says. So I really like this from Anish, especially against someone like Jan Krzysztof, who's a fantastic tactician, fantastic player of sharp positions, but he's not known as a heavy spacebarer who will have spent hours and hours on the sideline of the marshal. Still, it's not for everyday use. But for today, I like it, and yeah, this bishop c2 that was played by Jan Krzysztof is considered somewhat less critical. Another question is, when will Giri stop blitzing? So far, 133. Looks comfortable.
Yeah, it does look comfortable, and there's a little bit of surplus going on here with the whole d4 bishop f5 sequence, because I think with the king on g2, white can actually play g4, bishop takes f3, king takes f3. It looks weird, but there's no way to attack that king, and actually the queen on g6 has no squares, which is also kind of important. But d4 will be met by bishop f5, and as we've alluded to before, by playing d4, white really says the rook on h4 is not coming back until some kind of a late endgame. And it's a difficult move to make, which is why I think Anish is quite happy just making waiting.
Yes, just bishop f5.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah, just bishop f5, queen f5, and say, haha, your rook is still there, dude. It still has no moves. I will eventually maybe even start attacking it. Yeah, perfect marshal. I mean, you can make an argument there's some compensation if that rook is on f1. So with the rook on h4, I think any kind of a martial player worth his salt here is going to be quite happy. AB rook a6 is a topic in the current position, I guess, but then maybe black can start creating some kinds of threats, right? You can maybe play queen f5 and hint that rook c6, rook e1 might be a bit of an issue for white here. Although, do we have a reply to h3 here? It's still a very confusing position. White is obviously not without resources, but
This might actually be a threat, yeah? I'm looking
Yeah, I
at
think
it.
it is.
Run the
Yeah.
movements.
I think if black does nothing at all whatsoever, rook takes c6 is a threat here. Yeah, because I don't see how it gets punished.
So
Yeah,
maybe we just go c5
Yeah.
and say, you still have this rook.
Yep. That previous line kind of made me ask myself, can we play h3 in the card, like AB, and without rook a6, just play h3 here? But then I guess the bishop just goes to f5, and black says, you have now even further softened up your own king side. The pawn on g3 might, you will have to watch for some sacrifices maybe later in the game, not right now, but if h3 doesn't really win anything, you kind of hesitate to make that move because it does make your king side slightly more prone to weaknesses.
Jan Krzysztof can't be too happy. Last year he played g3 against Giri, saying, no theory whatsoever. This year he's going for theory. And Anish is telling him, you are now about to witness the strength of comp knowledge. And it doesn't seem fun for Jan Krzysztof. Or do you think I'm painting too gloomy a picture and white is still a pawn up? Nothing bad has happened?
I would definitely prefer to play this position with the black pieces, but I wouldn't be surprised if computers just said this is fine with accurate play. But yeah,
I don't think they will give black an edge here. It just feels like
no. I do know my
practically.
In practical terms, my personal preference would be like split second decision here. If you ask me which one I take. A bit of a shout out to the Alapin actually here in the Artemiev Saw game, weirdly.
Where are they at?
Because this structure, you sometimes get it in the classical Alapins after c3, g5, e and queen g5.
I should maybe explain for those of you who have not heard of the Alapin. It's okay. No one has, except for Jorn van Foreest. It's c3 in the Sicilian.
Mm-hmm. And I had this structure against Gawain Jones last year. No, not last year. 2 years ago in the WIC tournaments. This specific structure with the trade-off.
Interestingly, that
he just
went back to e3.
He just went back. He just said, "I don't know what else to do in this position."
I need to get my point out.
Yeah, no, I think it's specifically 95. But anyway, the bishop did get traded on e3, and I think it very much depends on tempi. But if black is somewhat underdeveloped, he could actually get under some pressure here because of how active the white light pieces sometimes get.
All right, 95 on the board.
Yeah.
What's the plan here, Wesley?
I think he's planning to take and go rook a7 because nothing else really makes any sense to me. And maybe knight c4 and hope there. No, knight c4 bishop h7 though. Yeah, we can't actually play that.
Double attack. This, I don't know. Maybe it's not so bad.
Yeah, it's not horrible. And the knight on c3, the reason Jan is highlighting it, you would like it to be closer to actually getting to c6. This is a bit of a Catalan structure going on the queen side. If that knight could be transferred somewhere towards the c6 square, white would be extremely happy. But what actually ends up happening, I think, is that black plays bishop d6, rook c7, maybe the knight drops back to e7, everything gets covered, and then in some extreme cases you can start making an argument that this d4 e3 structure is a target, and black could at some point start playing for advantage.
Let's check in with Mr. Carlsen. We haven't seen that game for a while. I read he's slightly worse as usual. That has been true for this tournament. So Magnus Carlsen, that's him. He has gotten a haircut since that picture was taken. The 29-year-old world champion of chess has led the rating lists for a decade. He literally started leading I believe, in January 2010. And now, last time I checked, it was January 2020. And he has been the number one in the world uninterrupted, took the world championship title from the man he is currently playing, Vishy Anand, in, when was it, 2013?
2013 Chennai, yeah.
In Chennai, no denying that, and has been the world champion ever since. He's currently on a streak of 100, whatever, 13, 12, I don't know, games without a win, and he's had a great season in fantasy football. But that's where the good news come to an end.
Much as I hate to interrupt you, it is without a loss. Without a win would be harsh.
Sorry, that's an important little correction. An undefeated streak of games without a win. Well, it could also be, but it is without a loss.
Not in his case. But he is, in particular, if you have to play bishop c8 in the current position, which he just played. Yeah, this is not that great. And
I'm being told it was not non-stop. In November 2010, he was number 2. Apologies.
I guess his point is that if white, let's say, goes bishop d3, which is, I think, the most obvious move most people would consider first here, in a very typical French defense fashion, I want to say, because I think that idea was pioneered in all kinds of really weird Frenches, in the knight d2 bishop e7 line in particular. This idea that you can try not winning the pawn on c5 instantly, but you can play a7 a5 and follow it up with a5 a4, fighting very, very pointedly against white playing knight b3. So let's say bishop d3, you play a4, and then you go for some kind of knight e6, knight takes c5 plans. And even this position, I'm not sure if I like for black, but what I dislike even more is the position after knight b3. Because the knight gets to a very good square on d4. I don't really care about, as you can see, I'm giving up the pawn on e5. If black actually takes on e5, my plan was to play bishop h6 deserves an honorary mention, but bishop f3 is what worries me the most. Supporting this bishop on e5, I mean, you can play f6, but it's kind of ugly, and if it goes back, I have this move bishop f4. And these types of positions, you see them, I think, the structure these days, you see the most often in the
c5 caro,
in the c5 caro, where often the pawn that gets won back by black is actually not this guy, but this guy. And the guy on c5 actually gets supported by pieces, and let's say some kind of a structure where white plays c3 and b4, the pawn on e5 gets taken away, but white gets a lot of piece play in the center. So if you look at this position, the pawn on d5 is now hanging. White probably will be taking on c7 and on d5 if black does nothing about it, although knight d4 next move is also a good plan. If you play e6, I probably play something like bishop d6, I play knight d4, and I claim that my pieces are a lot more active than yours, and I'm better. I don't know how true that statement would be here, because, I mean, these positions are messy, but I do like them for white quite a bit. So that's my speech here.
Are we just going back and forth, giving speeches now? This should be like a dialogue.
Speechifying.
Bishop f1, good move. Speech over.
Bishop f1, not a bad move, but you do need a reply to a4. I think that's the biggest question here, because then white's position feels somewhat stilted, and
kind of like break up precious pawns.
You can, but I don't think black will be unhappy about it. You take with the knight, I guess, yeah. And bishop f5 e4 becomes a topic. I would like to do something about that idiot on c8 before it gets completely locked in once again.
Yeah. Suat Atelik is saying, obviously something happened to Magnus. Grandmaster Suat Atelik. He plays like his brains are surgically removed. That's too strong. But so are you thinking that while he got that haircut, people get confused by all the hair and they got some brain? I doubt that. My theory was, but I have zero ways to back it up, that this streak was somewhere in the back of his mind, and he hasn't found the switch button. But also in Vike, he traditionally has struggled a little bit to get going. We expect it to happen any day, but so far, yeah, he's been struggling in what's the number? 5 of his 6 games to some extent. Yesterday got nothing against Caruana. He's worse again today. So his openings do not look in stellar shape. Or I'm not sure if I don't think it's his opening knowledge, but his decision making, or maybe it's just not running well with his choices. Like, always many factors.
All of these things, I think, are true to an extent. And in good news for our will Black ever win a game sweepstakes, Jordan decides not to play G6 and goes F5 instead.
Wow, go Jordan, go Jordan.
I really wish we could find a better picture
of Jordan.
Of Jordan.
I think this is a picture that was chosen to not highlight some of the features Jordan does not want to be shown on his face. Kidding, very handsome man, Jordan van Foreest. I don't know why this picture is there. Spec Cook also has continuously complained about that picture. I hear you.
So what are White's choices in this position? Yeah, okay.
Let me just find a picture. This looks like in my private folder. I will have some Jordan pictures. Maybe not.
Would be very upsetting if you had no instantly discoverable secret stash of Jordan pictures somewhere on that computer.
No, we've all learned from many past incidents to have our secret stashes of pictures in more secret places. You haven't seen You Season 2 yet, have you? Huh?
No, I haven't even seen You Season 1 yet.
Yeah, you probably want to start with that. Alright, I'm not sure if it helps the show if I look for Jordan pictures for the next hour. But yeah, I agree. We can maybe improve that picture. Sachin Roy is saying, what does Jan do with private pictures of Jordan van Foreest? Who said anything about private? I'm intending to publish them.
Yeah, and Nikita has taken a very drastic decision here. He says, okay, I don't believe I have any kind of mate whatsoever, and I am now going to be playing a pawn down position where my compensation is, well, there is some compensation after knight takes e5, cd, knight d3, knight d3, but yeah. That's quite a stark admission by Nikita there that things have gone kind of horribly wrong. And there's also still a question, can we go d takes c3 here and just attempt to win on the spot?
So first knight e5, the point has to be just cd4, right?
Yeah, there's nothing else.
Then knight d3, the argument is, okay, bishop not great.
Also very nice square on e5 for both of White's light pieces, like we go bishop f4, rook a1, rook c1, rook e1, rook c1, and we hope to somehow hang on grimly.
Other moves do exist.
Yeah, definitely an argument to be made here for playing knight c6, bishop f6, and just attacking the pawn on d4. And Jordan interestingly decides not to spend even 3 seconds, it felt like, on the move d takes c3, which... Ah, there's h7 hanging in the end there. Okay, I understand. I thought knight e6, knight e5 was still valid. But I mean, the major difference obviously here is that knight takes d3 is not a check. So White does have many additional options here. I would still be mildly curious, frankly, because this could be very strong. Knight h7, just c takes b2. I don't see any mate, and this is seemingly like a couple of checks, and then they run out. But Jordan says no, I mean, extra pawn, no attack. I'm perfectly happy not having to calculate. And cd4, knight c6 also played quite quickly.
Yeah, knight d3, this did look like enough compensation, so knight c6 feels like a bad test. Yeah, what's not to like? Pawn up, you're not getting mated. d4 is as weak as e6. This bishop, okay, it's not great, but...
Arguably weaker right now, because it's difficult to attack the pawn on e6, and the pawn on d4 is already hanging, so... Yeah, Jordan very much in control here.
Having a great tournament. The young Dutchman on 3.5 points out of 6 after 6 games. In his second appearance in Vacancy. Even though I've read a lot that he looks a lot more comfortable this year and so on and so forth, which is all true. But it's not like he lost all his games last year. He actually won 4 games, which is not a low number for a newcomer in Vacancy.
Not at all, yeah. I think I won. That's a bit of a low ball, but I feel I wanted to say I feel like I won 4 games in all of the years of playing Vike. That's not entirely true. I probably won maybe 7, but I played 5 or 6, so not an easy tournament to win games in. And 4 out of 13 is a very, very good record.
Sludgy saying, imagine what he'll do next year. Yeah, we had a lot of speculation about his interview before the tournament, where he was asked, and I quote here, so Jordan, you didn't win the Dutch Championship, you had a couple of results not really in the limelight, so how did you prepare for this year's event? And his answer, now I'm paraphrasing, was basically, okay, I feel I should fight for first place this year. Fighting words.
Yeah, and there's been more than one message in chat about Vichy not finding Bishop F1 and then Vichy missing Bishop F1, which...
So he did not play first computer move Bishop F1, played second computer move Bishop D3. Blunder? I don't know if it's second computer move, I'm just making
Yeah, I'm very upset that knight b3 is not actually the correct decision here. But Bishop F1, I mean, choosing between Bishop d3 and Bishop F1, I would actually pretty much always play Bishop d3 here. And also Magnus just instantly refutes all of my speeches about a4 and just goes knight e6 straight away. Yeah, it's like they're conspiring to prove everything I say to be completely wrong.
Do you think it's part of the world conspiracy against you? Do they know? Are they in on it?
They could be ringleaders. Look at, I mean, they're important people. They're not just, everyday pawns in the big conspiracy. They must be the ones driving it.
It's not impossible. Even though I don't think Vichy has the time.
Probably not. Probably not.
Do you think they could be either in with the reptile leaders or be part of the reptile board? Okay, let's say something more chess. I can see the more chess, less nonsense, please. Comment coming. Fabi, queens have been exchanged.
Queens have been exchanged, and Dubov decided to make a quiet move, which we did not mention on air after knight takes a3. A cute little decision saying the pawn on 6 is not actually hanging all that much because of bishop takes c3 in reply, so I will make a move I always need and think about how to defend my structure later. White should have good compensation for the pawn anyway, though. Even after something like knight a3 c2, I think, which is not an unthinkable move to make. Yet more litotes. I've learned a word today.
What's that? Litotes?
Yeah.
I still don't know what that means.
Double negations, I assume, from context, but I have not looked up the...
We are an educational show.
We are very much an educational show.
Litotes. Ugh, stupid Google is in German. I'm sure there's some setting to switch it to English.
Eventually, but eventually.
Anyway, litotes, figure of speech, double negation, blah blah blah. There were sometimes hedging. Ironicking.
No, hedging is actually a large part of why I do that, because it gives me more layers of I'm not entirely sure in what I'm saying when I do that.
So you're saying you get many compliments, but you're not confident?
That's probably a quote, but as you know, my cultural references differ greatly from...
You're not a Talib Kweli fan?
No. I would struggle to...
We live in very different worlds.
Yeah, I would struggle to pick him out of lineup. H3 bishop f5 played in the Dudagiri game. Actually, I am actively not a fan of that guy.
Actively, you dislike Talib Kweli.
Yeah,
Wow,
because
that's surprising.
I've encountered him on Twitter, and he did not seem like a person I would very much like. So I actually remember the name now.
Wow, I had no idea. You had beef with Talib Kweli.
Beef is strong. I just like you encounter some interactions on Twitter. Obviously not with me. I'm not big enough to interact with Talib Kweli on Twitter. But I've seen some others interact with him on Twitter, and I made a mental note that, yeah, no.
That's shocking.
Yeah.
Is anything shocking here? Take, and he went to d7, not g6. Yeah, maybe that's a better square. Just.
Yeah, it's a perfectly sensible square. We're not getting mated on the king side, so you don't need to block the b1 h7 diagonal as hard as all that. In our weird Marshall, the move h3, which I was doubtful about, has been played by Young Shishkov, and bishop f5 as expected is on the board. You can continue driving it away. You can play knight d4 here, for instance, and it will probably have to go from f5. But knight d4 is such an awkward move, then it's such an unpleasant square to be putting a piece on that I don't think it's highly likely. It could be a way maybe to offer a draw silently, but I don't think Anish will take it. Something like knight d7, knight d4, bishop d7, knight f3 back. But I don't think it creates any threats for black, so black will just play c5 or whatever and say thank you for the 2 tempi and please continue begging.
How's that rook doing on h4?
Yeah.
Faggy is asking, Jan, is there a difference between helping Uncle Jack off the horse and... no, I can't read that out, Faggy. It's too early in the show for interspecies erotica references. It's kids watching. But yeah, there is a big difference.
Yeah. You should, however...
Giant difference.
You should, however, generally help the elders. I would suggest that...
Always help your... Oh, boy, this is gonna be hard even pronunciation-wise. Not going there.
And Mr. Dodgy, who is the resident horse specialist on the show, it says the difference is felt most keenly by the horse.
Yeah.
Indeed, it is very true.
This is equal?
Yeah, I think white is not worse, but I don't think white is pushing for anything. And in particular, I think if we go knight f6 here, the knights will come off the board post-haste. And actually, like, just structure-wise, if we go knight f6, knight e4, knight e4, bishop e4, would you say black sometimes is still slightly better, or it's just completely equal?
You take black, no?
Yeah, like g6,
stuff on the board.
g6, king g7, bishop g5, and
some moves somewhere. Yeah.
either here or there. But I think with the c-file open and the rook landing on c6 and kind of begging to get traded and so on, I think it's very close to complete equality, right?
Yeah, it should end in a draw, but if you had to choose a side, it's black, no? Better king. Alireza, is he getting anywhere?
Well, it's a pleasant position for white. I don't know. I don't know if it's anything tangible just yet. Do you play knight f5 immediately? Because it kind of invites some kind of counterplay with connected with bishop g6, maybe even immediately bishop g6. Because d5 e5 I couldn't quite make work, but bishop g6 does seem to be like a sensible move here. I think if you give white once again some time to improve without black actually doing much in the center, you will definitely start thinking white is better, but black probably will have something to say about it, like in the current position. If I could play, I don't know, c4, b3, rook a d1, knight g2, f3, I would feel I've done a lot, and my position now is probably quite a bit better. But normally you would expect Jeffrey to, by this point, I don't know, play 4 and achieve the d6, d5 break, or well, do something proactive.
Ordinary Twitch name is saying worse and less accurate commentary is always good for learning. I'm trying. I'm trying.
Yeah, and on a slightly earlier discussion about whether we do read the pleb chat. We do read the pleb chat.
No, I just want Mr. Dodgy to know it's not a safe place.
We just don't respond to it, is what I was trying to say. Rook d4. The rook has vacated the rook has left the building in the Dudagiri game.
Dudagiri. When we're just there, how often can you go back to Giri?
Well, exceedingly often, I would say. This is probably an exchange sacrifice, because I feel that he wants to play c5, knight h4, queen h7, knight takes f5.
Sorry, queen what?
c5, knight h4, queen h7, knight f5. Pretty sure that is his intention. But yeah, but nobody.
No, we keep it.
Yeah, I actually think queen takes f5 is probably the correct decision in this position, because cd4, knight d4 I quite like for white.
Also, 2 pawns are a lot for the exchange, other things being equal, no?
Like here, you can definitely imagine white becoming better if, yeah,
Sure. Get rid of the idiot.
yeah, or even knight f3 and d3, d4 straighten out like that and then play. But I like your plan better probably, as long as we don't run into some rook e1 turbulence. But
So, does Anish have alternatives? c5 is that forced?
not really.
Is this running into g4 or rook h4 or what's going on?
Thanks for the sub to Jake 57689. Queen h5 is definitely a move actually. Knight, yeah. The big question is, do we have a reply to knight h4 that we like? But maybe now we can take on d1 and then actually switch to hunting that rook. We're not playing c5 here, right? We're playing bishop e6 or bishop c8 somewhere, and then we're playing c5 and going for bishop c8. I think we kind of have to go knight f3, rook h4, and put it back in the corner, which is a sad indictment of.
Yeah, still pawn down, but the pieces are so. Ugh.
Yeah, no, black often just ends up being better in positions like this.
I'll be back in a minute.
Sure. So rook d4, I think it's quite likely that the one thing that will not happen is Anish just accepting that exchange sacrifice, because that solves, the one big problem white has here, which is this horrible rook which used to be on h4 and is now on d4. The issue with queen h5, the move we were discussing just now before Jan left, is that it's basically a draw offer. Because of course white can go rook h4 back, queen g6, and play rook d4 again, and we've not really made any progress with black. So the question to Anish here will be, does he believe he is better? And if he does believe he is better, he could look for some ambitious ways to continue, but not entirely sure what that is, because really allowing knight h4, knight takes f5 would be bad news for him. I don't know if he can do that. And playing something like bishop c8 unprovoked, there's a very large drawback to that, because after knight h4 the queen will have to go to h7. You have to be really, really sure you're not blundering anything in this position. It could make sense, because once again, next black move is probably c5, and this rook on d4 continues to be an extremely stupid piece. But if something good is available to white here, there's also a very cute position here after rook d6, d4, queen h8. But the thing is, queen h8 is probably not forced. I think black can probably justify playing knight e4 here? Question mark. I don't know. I mean, there's also g6, but I don't know which one I like less. Queen h6 or g6. Queen h8 or g6, both look ugly-ish. So still a very sharp position, very messy position, but it does feel like queen h5 is a draw offer, which I suspect young Krzysztof will just take, because I don't think he believes he is better. And just to mention that g4 is more or less never a move when you have this collection of sort of non-subscribers on a1, c1, and c2, you just get mated here.
Speaking of which, there are still offers to save money if you guys decide. These Chess24 guys, they're so personable, and I would really like to see more of them. I would like to watch all their video series, all the knowledge they have to drop about chess. Also, I would like to watch Vichy Anand. I would like to see the upcoming series by some very big names. You can become a Chess24 premium member for just $5 using the code STEEL2020 as a trial membership for a month, or you can get 30% off premium by using the code Tata2020. Go to chess24.com, have a look around, check out the video series, check out the banter blitzes, check out all the good stuff. Then, if you like it, go to premium, use one of these codes, save money. I know, it's too good to be true. Some people would say, make it $500 with access to thousands of video series and all these secrets, but it's $5. Anish,
Can I actually take a minute here?
to say something?
No, to disappear off the screen for a second.
No, that's not acceptable.
I know.
Ali Mahmoudi is saying, is Jan reading from a prepared text? The whole show is being read from a teleprompter. Sometimes we have to improvise because we don't know what is being played over the board. That's why we have the engine lines that we read out. But other than that, everything is either being written beforehand or once in a while we get something into our ear from the speechwriters we have in the other room. So yeah, that was written. And Peter's fiddler is gone. That means most of the chess expertise has left the building. So we have to figure out all by ourselves what is happening in this game between the world champion and the former world champion. The guys have played 2 world championship matches against each other. Magnus Carlsen with the black pieces against Vichy Anand. Looks like he was in trouble after some uneven opening play. This a6, I'm not sure about. Knight e8. Felt like he wanted to play knight e4 and then changed his mind. Anand took the pawn, bishop g4, bishop e2, knight c7, knight b2, a5, h3, bishop c8. Another move you're not too thrilled to make here. There was some mentioning that bishop f1 was preferred by the computers over bishop d3, but that's what he did. Knight e6, targeted this pawn, and Vichy said, you know, you can have it, but I will activate my knight. So black regained his pawn, but he still has some strategic problems to deal with. This bishop is not very active. This bishop also struggles to make it into the game. And after bishop c2, it just looks like white has a very good French structure. I understand the French pawn is on e6, but this advanced, well-protected unit, the e unit on e5, combined with the fact that black has no real counterplay against the center, f6 will be hard to manufacture, makes it a pretty unpleasant position for Magnus Carlsen. He played queen a5, just, you know, somehow trying to create space for his pieces. Vichy just went bishop d2 and worry about nothing. Rook to d8, and now it is up to Vichy Anand. Before I actually have to predict the move, finally, Peter is back. I can only keep it together for so long without, you know, blundering pieces. So what should white do after rook to d8? What say you?
Bishop g5, probably the first move that comes to my mind, but...
He just played bishop d2.
I did from
c1. Still make a case, because no, whatever. Pin. But I doubt it.
Yeah, bishop d2 is an interesting choice here. I mean, it clearly created a threat of c3, c4, but rook d8 is not an unthinkable move for black to make. And does he actually want to play? I don't think he does. Like, there is b4, which takes a lot of material off the board here, but I think I'm also blundering the e5 pawn, right? Which is not great.
Even if you weren't, I think Magnus would be happy with this.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, just completely impossible, because giving up the pawn on e5 is not good. Yeah, I'm wondering why the bishop is on d2. If we don't instantly profit from it in some tactical fashion. I would have liked to play bishop g5 on the previous move as well. It attacks the pawn on e7. We also want to play queen d2, bishop h6, which is a very typical thing that I think favors white in these positions. Yeah, so...
Still an unpleasant position for black, but yeah, it's a bit surprising it went so humble with bishop d2.
And that kind of brings me to, you can maybe make an argument for queen c1 in the current position.
All these Karpovian one-square moves.
Yeah, but exactly. I would. Why are our pieces on g2 and c1 instead of g5 and d2 in this position is unclear to me. Maybe he is sidestepping some kind of knight e4 counterplay, but I have to say it's potential counterplay. There is nothing immediate. I can go bishop h6. I can probably also just take that pawn and say, yeah, I understand it makes your life slightly easier. Take on c6 here, I guess. Do not give up on e5. Take on e4. Yes, black will have some compensation, but it is after all a reasonably healthy extra pawn. Yeah, exactly. And we can then switch back to quote unquote giving mate.
All right. So that leads me to believe Magnus still in trouble. Also, it's the kind of position I think Vichy will enjoy. No, queen c1 has indeed been played. Ugh, you super grandmasters and your little moves. This looks like a nice move.
Yeah, I'm still not a fan of bishop d2, but I think having played bishop d2, queen c1 is a very understandable decision because the thing about this structure, of course, is that the pawn on e5 works as a very nice wave breaker to make it more difficult for black to control the king side, and most of his pieces are on the queen side as a matter of fact. And it's very possible to create quite a dangerous attack on the king side here with quite limited forces once the bishop actually lands on h6. Structurally, this remains very nice for white. I think something like knight e4 is quite critical here. Knight e4 or maybe knight e6, you can make an argument for knight e6 here. Trying at least to trade some stuff off the board before your problems on the king side become more pronounced.
Yeah, we'll see what Magnus comes up with. Another bad position for him.
Yeah,
so far he hasn't lost any though.
Knight e6 already played by Magnus. No, I think that simplification idea is extremely sensible. Considering how the game stands right now. If white takes on e6 and then goes bishop h6, d5, d4 becomes something that black very much wants and probably plays instantly because it frees his position up a great deal.
If we do this directement.
Yeah, I think we start by taking on d4 with a c knight. And if you take with a pawn, I probably go bishop d7, rook a c8, and I claim that now at least I can visually, I can imagine where my counterplay is, which is a very positive change from a couple of moves ago.
Thinking of visually pun, but I ain't got none. Therefore, moving on to Nikita Vitiugov versus Jordan van Foreest, friend of the program, great banter blitzer, especially early in the morning. We once did a bantathon where Jordan was like 2 hours late, but very animated when he did show up.
Yeah, I had a feeling there was some kind of there was the moment for the so far non-existent sarcasm signpost that...
we still don't have a sarcasm sign.
No. We should
be in the budget.
I don't think it's a budgetary concern necessarily. It's just that we can't get anyone to make one.
That's why we need to pay someone to do it, so it's a budgetary concern.
Yeah.
Bishop d7.
Yeah, it's just bad for white. I mean, the only question is how bad. There's really not very much to discuss here. It's a normal French position, but...
If there was a pawn on c3, you'd say, yeah, white is slightly better, but it wouldn't be like
outrageous, right? Yeah, exactly. It wouldn't be all that horrible, yeah. Although, so obviously, f7, f5 is not a very useful move for black in this structure. I was trying to work the the adjective ornamental into the sentence there and failing, so I bailed halfway through.
Mr. Dodgy is saying, hello, I can make sarcastic signs for monies. I don't know, this sounds a lot like the beginning of the movie Joker to me. So I'm not sure if we're doing Mr. Dodgy any favors if we get involved in any science work.
Yeah, that would end up badly. B4 played by Nikita. Now something like 97 bishop b5 is very much on the menu for black. You just need to pay attention not to allow some strong counterplay against the e6 pawn connected with knight f4, I guess. Also, did we address the kind of a burning question of why can't we just take on d4? My guess
I didn't dare to ask, because if there's one thing I want to avoid is to look stupid on camera. I also wasn't sure why I can't take the stupid pawn.
Yeah, I guess just rook a d1 and say it's an unpleasant pin, and you might have to play e5.
Your structure is
yeah, I think Nikita is not unhappy. He is not unhappy about giving up on d4 if that means doubling the d pawns and then generating some counterplay.
Still, if anybody is better, it's black.
Yeah. No, black is 2 pawns up. Obviously, if anybody is better, it's black. But he clearly can't really defend the pawn on d4 comfortably anyway, so he is for now just making the useful moves. You can even throw in a5, b5 if you wanted to, which might not be a horrible idea. After b4, I think if black plays a5 there, white has to play b5. ba knight a5 has to be sort of instantly close to lost, I guess, once the queen side becomes more open. Once again,
we'll make a case for f4.
Cute.
Horsey.
Yeah. Horsey might not enjoy that all that much.
Which brings us back to Feggy's question.
Exactly. That's why I phrased it that way. Because I am now questing for the ways to bring back Feggy's question. Rook ac8 is Jordan's choice instead of all that, and that's a very sensible move as well. Keeping the knight on c6 for now means that white cannot really leave the... I mean, white would like to play knight f4 at some point, but not while the pawn on d4 is so weak. And placing a rook on the open file here cannot possibly be wrong.
Yeah, Jordan, healthy pawn up. We'll see if he converts, but so far his... can't find metaphor. His good Vikings A tournament continues. We have been occasionally criticized for not talking enough about tournament leader Wesley So, who has a very quiet, unassuming, but especially in good shape, very powerful chess style. Technical, does not make many mistakes, can play a positional model game any day of the week and twice tomorrow. But here, is he better?
No, I think in particular now that he's decided to allow this a4 variation, it feels like just things will come off after queen takes a6. Bishop g5, rook f1 looks slightly awkward, but maybe you can just play like that. And the marshal has concluded.
Draw, yeah, the repeated moves.
Yeah, the marshal has concluded in a draw. So Anish did not actually believe he was better. Maybe he wasn't better after rook d4. Maybe rook d4 is just a smart move there.
So you're saying he wouldn't have made a draw had he thought he was better?
That is exactly what I'm saying.
I agree.
Hot take.
Yeah, move repetition here after rook d4. Queen h5 is the move we also settled upon. White probably has nothing better than to go for this. So yeah, we talked about this. I really liked this line as a surprise weapon from Anish and Jan Krzysztof. Could not refute it over the board when, yeah, the attempts to refute start with knight d2, but got away with a, yeah, not even a black eye, but did some good danger limitation, damage control with rook d4, rook h4 draw. All right, and then there were 6.
Yeah.
What's this game?
Probably very, very level. Kovalev did not really attempt to refute the black concept here at all. I think starting from bishop g5, bishop takes f6 on move 10. His approach to today's game was, let's see if I can get
swap stuff.
Let's see if I can get a very, very small advantage by also risking absolutely nothing. And I guess the answer is no. I mean, here I would probably play knight e6 before I played d5. Frankly, d5 appears to be maybe risking a little bit, but... And he did allow this d4 break. So if anyone is slightly better in the current position, it is of course white, because the bishop on a2 is better than the bishop on d6. But it feels like black should be holding, right?
It took when, I'm guessing, rook takes e4 will be played, maybe thinking...
He played knight g5. He actually played knight g5.
Okay.
Rook e4, knight b7, I guess, is quite okay for black. But still, the scarcity of material available should mean that Yangyi defends this quite comfortably. In particular, I think we can still play rook e8 question mark with the intention of meeting knight takes e4 with king f8. I thought that was maybe clever, but I'm worried about blundering something after rook d1 after rook e8, but maybe I shouldn't be so worried.
What's your trick?
Just knight. Yeah, knight takes e4, we can once again make a move of some description. Yeah, it feels like white can maybe pretend for a bit, but it shouldn't be anything tangible.
All games but the Gira game are still going, and I think we have to come back to Anand versus Magnus Carlsen, where
this is a very striking decision.
d4 has been played.
Because I've seen a mention of before essentially being a draw offer by Sachin Roy, but I think we still cannot take with the pawn after ab3, right? Or is he intending to take on c6 and then take on b3?
Bishop b3,
Or bishop
that's not his
b3.
style, really.
Yeah, but like bishop takes b3 is definitely not a draw offer, because you've broken up your own structure, and the position has become sharper rather than more safe. And the reason I said you cannot do this is that the pawn on e5 remains hanging. Nothing changed on that front. So there is actually even b2 is a move here. Oh, no, knight e7. Sorry, blundering knight e7 would be a mistake. So there is this, but once again,
why solve most of black's problems?
c5. You start picking black in positions like
Yeah,
this. Yeah, it's just.
sure.
No, it feels like he actually is planning probably to take with the bishop on b3, but that's this is not a draw offer. This is just Vichy believing this is how the structure needs to be changed. Solving, I guess, the problem I didn't really know he had of the backward b2 pawn, and I don't know, finding a decent square for the bishop on g2, but not an obvious decision at all.
Does the knight go back?
Yeah, that's the first big question. Do we play knight c5 here or queen to some square? There's some argument maybe even for queen a3 to like win half a tempo. But Magnus decides to do something else altogether and goes queen
What
c7.
are we missing? Why? Bishop b3 must have helped black, no?
Yeah,
Some tactic?
I'm confused.
b3, c4, or what's going on?
No, maybe he just believes that the position after queen c7 is already good for him somehow.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm not sure about any of this. I kind of understand why queen c7 is played though, because the pawn on e5 is hanging, and you normally would just take on e6 and play bishop f4 and feel quite okay about life. But then black, I think, instantly breaks with d5, d4 in reply, and this is what black wants. Black wants to play d5, d4 at the first opportunity. And Vichy, yeah, I thought d3 was quite interesting here. Vichy took on c6. This is going in all kinds of directions.
This looks completely different from 2 moves ago, where it looked like white had a stable advantage. Well, now,
yeah, my guess is next move is bishop h6. But I mean, even c5 here, like with a knight on d6, we're much less worried about getting mated on the king side, because it covers the g5 square, it covers the f4 square, which would be needed for the queen on c1 to get activated. So c5, bishop b7, d4, just go. I'm honestly not a fan of Vish's approach so far in the past maybe 5 moves. I struggle to see why this is the best he had.
Yeah. Also, it feels like he's made this the old cliche, but a game for 3 results, where Magnus could very much have hopes of being better, but well, before it really
Very
just
much so,
looked
yeah.
like Vichy had a stable edge. Maybe you're right, maybe starting there with his bishop d2, it's maybe too small a move. Bishop g5 looked nice.
Yeah, bishop g5, queen d2 compared to this just felt a lot more natural. I guess black replies in a very similar fashion anyway, like rook e8 and then knight e6 against most normal moves, hoping once again to challenge the knight on d4 as early as possible. But
yeah, even this, bishop h6, so queen f4.
yeah.
Okay. Vichy will know what he's doing. If you want something to do, you can participate in the quiz at 4 p.m. I read Jan always seems sleepy or drunk. Why can't I be both? And in the quiz at 4 p.m. for Chess24 premium members. So reply in the Chess24 chat if you happen to be Chess24 premium member. If you happen to not be one, you can become one still, using either the Tata 2020 code if you want, for example, a yearly membership, 30% off, or the 1-month premium trial with the code STEEL2020. So go there now, fire up your Wikipedia. And then
Breaking news: Lawrence has identified the quote-unquote most natural move in the position, and Vichy instantly played it.
should be 3.
Bishop b3, trying to control some squares. Yeah, does make a
Stop
decent.
c5?
No, it doesn't. But we can go bc and force the knight away, and then maybe play bishop h6 anyway. I think c5 has to be played eventually. I don't know if black wants to try preparing it for an additional move somewhere, or just go for it now. And Mr. Dodgy says, "Oh no, Vichy has lost his mind," and that clearly is not a critique of the bishop b3 move as such. It's just based on very sound observation that Vichy has just made a move that Lawrence suggested.
Maybe he didn't know Lawrence suggested it. I'm sure had he had chat access, he would have played a different move.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
All right, so who's better? Lawrence.
The years and years we've spent looking at chess with engines obviously make me think that any position where the material is undisturbed ends up somehow being 0-0-0, but I don't know. I still I would like to say white is still better, but I'm really not sure anymore. I have a feeling black is now fine. And c5 instantly played by Magnus. Yeah, Magnus doesn't feel like anything is gained by waiting, and it's a move that he needs to make sooner rather than later.
He has many virtues. Patience is not one of them. Even though as a chess player, he is actually quite patient.
Yeah, I think over the board he is a remarkably patient man. So bc knight c5. I mean, white is of course not obliged to take, but having placed the bishop on e3, you've put yourself into a much more bc5 kind of a situation, because allowing d5, d4 with tempo doesn't feel right at all. So what do we do in this position? Do we, I would like to somehow make knight d4 work, but I have a feeling it's a bit over ambitious. Bishop h6 is a useful move, but even knight coming back to e6 worries me here. Is black actually already fighting for advantage here?
Bishop is still.
Yeah, the
an
bishop is
idiot.
still... There's queen a3. Maybe we play queen a3. This is the move I currently sort of like. Queen a3 followed by rook b1 if you go back to e6. Unless I blundered d4 again, which it seems like I did.
What are you blundered? D4?
Knight a6 rook b1 is what I wanted
no.
to play. And now I blundered d4 and... Although it probably doesn't work, it's actually a cute line if we could show it. d4 I go, let's say knight takes d4. Knight takes d4, bishop takes d4, rook takes d4, cd, queen takes c2, and here I go queen f3. And then I go rook c1, rook b8. I think this wins material.
Overloading.
Yeah, and wherever the rook... No, I think the other rook is better. Because queen f5 is still actually a move that holds for a second. But now we go rook b8 and everything falls apart. Queen a3 played by Wesley So. That must have been the intention.
I'm also reading queen a3, white better. Okay. What else is going on? Where haven't we been for a while? Caruana Dubov is an endgame where Caruana is a nice position, but Dubov has pawns.
Yeah, Dubov has more pawns, and it's... I feel like it ends up being equal somehow, but... you generally prefer the side with pawns in an endgame, so... I don't know, b6, after some very lengthy thought, Fabi decides that no b6 attempts ever work. So he takes, after knight c2, a5 is an actual very serious move now. Like, I'm not sure it's so easy for white to equalize
Like passive moves.
a4, knight b4, bishop b5. And yeah, I understand that the black pieces don't really look that well coordinated, but it is a reasonably healthy pawn. I don't know, bishop f4, e5 here maybe. Maybe it's just completely fine. Maybe the importance of that outside passer is oversold. It felt to me like the Wesley game may have been that's what happened. Yeah,
this will be over soon.
Yeah, this is. Let's just show how they got here. After queen takes a6, Wesley decided not to look for any tactics, which move 23. Decided not to look for any tactics that might give him an advantage, and found a tactic which just simplified everything. So that game is about to disappear off our screens. I quite like what young Jeffrey is doing here.
These horses, they're sort of stepping on each other's toes, no?
Yeah, but they do create some tactical opportunities for white as well. I think, in general, playing g6 is just not very attractive because it weakens the structure. Also, the f5 knight will go to h6, and it's an awkward square close to your king where you don't really want to have people, set up camp. And the pawn on d6 is hanging, and I think what Jeffrey is trying to leverage here, he's trying to push black into playing, not Jeffrey actually, Reza. He's trying to push Jeffrey into playing d6, d5, and then he goes e5. And with the open e file in particular, I think white has great potential for an attack against the black king.
We are also being asked. First of all, it looks like Jordan van Foreest is winning. And then there's a question. What is Jordan's story? What is his story? He is a 20-year-old Dutchman from the beautiful city of Groningen. He's from a chess family. His grandfather was Dutch champion of chess. Also the Van Foreest. As far as I understood, there are some old Dutch, not royalty, what's the word? Important people who used to, I speak like Trump, they're important people, who used to be mayors of villages.
I think they're called, wait for it, aristocrats.
Aristocrats, there you go. And it's a chess family. His brother Lucas is the reigning Dutch chess champion, is also a grandmaster. Jordan became a grandmaster at the age of 16, which I know in Russia it's late, but in Western Europe that's a big thing. He was Dutch champion, I think like 3-4 years ago already. So he's been a prodigy for a while, then at some point got stuck around the 2600 level, but at least, especially last year, I feel like he's been making big strides. He's jumped from 2600 to 2650 and rising, working a lot on his openings, extremely well prepared, gaining more and more confidence, more and more experience, more and more suits. So Jordan van Foreest, the up-and-coming star in Dutch chess, if we don't count Anish Giri. So far, he's on +1 in this tournament. He's on +1 in the pawn count against Nikita Vitiugov. Not sure why he should be winning soon. Maybe there's some tactic, but he's doing well.
Yeah, I don't know if that's. I also saw that comment and I was wondering because I don't think much changed in the knight takes d4 variation. I think just generally black has had a healthy pawn up here, and most sensible moves will lead to a very large advantage for him. Even let's say something unassuming like knight e7, knight f4, rook takes c1, rook takes c1, rook c8, and start just simplifying and preparing for pawn up endgames. How bad can that be?
Also worth mentioning, very important mentioning, Jordan's little sister is also good at chess. I'm not sure how many siblings it is exactly. I think around 5, the over-under is 5, and they're all great chess players, which should not be allowed.
Yeah, that is overdoing it a little bit there. And Twitch chat informs us that they have 6 siblings and 3 of them are very good at chess. So that's the...
Not true. It's a lot of disrespect for my man. I can't think of the name. Some of the younger brothers are good at chess too, is what I'm trying to say. Vichy has played rook a1.
Yeah, Vichy will have seen that queen f3 tactic in a heartbeat. It's if there are some things that will always be true, it is one of those will be that Vichy is extremely good at sort of pointed short calculations. And yeah, if I had seen that tactic, Vichy basically he'd spend the 5 minutes he thought about rook b1 on something else, because that wouldn't have given him any trouble whatsoever. This is actually awkward for Magnus, yeah? Specifically because rook b1 exists as a move, because bishop b6 is an annoying threat.
Yeah,
it's very unclear
maybe
how
he relied on d4 from afar.
Well, there is a line I've been trying to calculate for a while now. d4, knight d4, bishop takes e5. Just completely ignoring the idea of picking up the bishop on c2 and hoping to, well, tactic your way out of this these issues. But I think it probably doesn't quite work. d4, knight d4, bishop e5, with the intention of playing knight e6, bishop e6, bishop b6, queen takes c3. And that actually I don't think loses. I think that actually is, well, that leads to this, like, White's best probably here is queen c3 and rook e6, right? Fe, rook d8, bishop d8, rook d8, bishop a4. But the rook d2, bishop d4 just makes...
This will be drawn.
Yeah, rook d2, bishop d4 makes a very comfortable draw for black here. It's not a problem. But I'm pretty sure that knight takes e6 simply is not forced on move 27 in that variation. You can go knight b5 here, for instance. Or bishop e4 could be a very useful inclusion as well. So yeah, still not a lot of fun for Magnus here. And if you don't have any of the forcing solutions after queen a3, and if you have to make some kind of a move like rook d7 or rook e8, then you start disliking your position quite a bit, I think. Yeah, and Thanasis Serentidakis says, LOL, SSS, play rook f8.
It's a tough move to make.
Yeah, it's not fun. You might have to, because simply tactically nothing else works, and Magnus, I think, is definitely capable of making ugly moves when ugly moves are what the position requires. But yeah, Not a decision that will come easily for him.
Dag Bruggeman is saying, Nanne van Foreest also plays chess at a decent level. There you go. And yeah, Jordan, I'm not sure. Is this progress? What's going on? He went knight e7, rook c5 and took. Do we like that?
I think it's a very concrete approach because he's saying, yes, your structure sort of improved, but also if I get to play 6e5, I will just run you. Yeah, I shall just run you over with my central pawns, and if you allow queen a4, I will just pick up your entire queen side probably. So he is. Yeah, it's a young man's way to convert an advantage like this. Although I was suggesting knight e7, but I probably wouldn't have been taking on c5, at least not that quickly. He did spend quite a bit of time on knight e7, so I think it's safe to assume he was expecting rook c5, and this is the solution he just landed on eventually.
Positionally, still, this could be the move we want to make.
I think queen a4 is what he's intending.
Take stuff, huh?
Take stuff or play bishop b5 as well is a large positional threat, because if the light square bishops come off, it just becomes very, very easy to win most of these positions.
Yeah, bit of an opening disaster for Nikita Vitiugov, which we don't see often from him, no? Especially in the French.
Especially in the French, it's surprising, but it does feel like he just
missed this move. Huh?
tuned out for a second and assumed bishop d3 was holding everything together tactically, but it doesn't.
Quiz time in 7 minutes.
Very important.
I'm also reading that Luke Van Velde was like the Tom Brady of Vike. No. Tom Brady won, what, 5 Super Bowls? Just because he's old doesn't mean he's the Tom Brady of Vike. Or maybe I missed the conversation, but can't agree with that. 6. Sorry, Patriots fans. We are Europeans.
Also, Patriot fans?
Was that?
Question mark? I just I don't know, for some reason, even though I don't really care about that particular sport, I do for some reason possess an opinion on the Patriot fans, and it's not extremely favorable. I don't know why.
The New England Patriots you're not a fan of, or just their following?
I think it's
Is it because of all the cheating you turned on them?
yeah, I think it's all the cheating and also Belichick in general, but
You don't like his attitude towards the media. I follow zero American football and really just
apologies.
It's okay.
We need some water. Give me a sec. At least I need some water.
What have we not seen? The Wesley game is about to come to a peaceful conclusion. I'm frankly a bit surprised it's still going, because no one can win this. I would guess the Kovalev game, Kovalev is also running out of attacking resources. It is equal material, opposite colored bishops, and there does not seem to be enough to put any pressure, so Kovalev, well, does some danger, limiting, well, assuming this game ends in a draw, but he still won't be thrilled with this tournament. Neither will Yangyi. What's Yangyi's score? I should know, but on his like -1. Or
I think he's on -1 for some. Yeah.
Yangyi, yeah, he's
-2
out of
actually,
6. Yeah. Things haven't been going great for him either.
If so game is still continuing.
I just said I don't know why it's continuing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did he blunder a piece?
No, I thought no. I just thought if you haven't mentioned it, I will, because Vike does not have a 30 move rule or any kind of.
Yeah, a bit surprising. We should mention, if Firouzja doesn't win and Wesley won't win, should Jordan van Foreest win, he would join the leaders, which would be quite something after 7 rounds. It's not a small sample size.
Absolutely.
Is it quiz time? No, still 4 minutes. I don't know what to do in these 4 minutes. I really don't. We could look at the computer bar here. What does it say? It says Jordan is better, equal. Alireza better, equal. Vichy somewhat better. Equal. But what I really wanted to see was the cross table. And if there is one thing I know how to do, it's cut out a cross table. And then cover our heads with it. Here we are. Wesley So in the lead, 4 points out of 6 games. The 16-year-old Alireza Firouzja, who recently moved to France, and it seems like that did not hurt his chess, playing better than ever. Also 4 out of 6. Jon van Foreest, the Dutch man, on 3.5. Krzysztof Duda, sort of quiet, but has been drawing all his games. Not what he's associated with. I don't think he's been trying to draw his games or he's played boring chess. Just that's how it played out. Caruana on +1, Giri on 50%, Dubov on +1, Vichy 50%. Well, you guys could probably figure out the rest. Things aren't going great for Yangyi and Kovalev, who will most likely draw each other. Magnus played d4. That is news before we get to quiz time.
Yeah, that is interesting. He probably found some way to continue after knight d4 bishop e5, or just believes it's better than playing bishop rook f8 simply. But
maybe he just couldn't get himself to play rook f8 either. I'm not.
Yeah. No, but we don't suspect he did not figure out the fact that you cannot take on c2 in that line. So I assume he found some way to continue there without going down that particular forced line. Bishop e5. Let's try to figure out what's happening here. I quite liked bishop e4. Of all the things I kind of threw at this position, I think bishop e4 is the most sensible one. Because it really is difficult to find squares for pieces here. If you go rook b8, I can take... The simplest would be to take on b8 and then e7 and claim that I'm now much better. Although, unless e6 just wins everything, right? What am I saying? Just, yeah. A bit of a fork here going on. So yeah, rook b8 is not a move you can make. So it's probably between rook a6 and rook a5.
We will explore all these exciting options after quiz time. It currently looks like Magnus Carlsen could be in some trouble. So here comes the quiz. So far, we have the following winners. RD53, Mr. Dodgy, Templarity, I think. Those got a famous effing legend mark. And then Camilo Pitt, MXYZPTIK. And the Bowtie Club won the 3-month extension, which is at stake again today, if I'm being informed correctly. If that is not exciting variety in prices, I do not know. So here's the question. Are you guys ready? The answer is not Luke van Vele. That much I know. Here we go. How many times have women taken part in the top group of the Wijk aan Zee tournaments? And name them. So I think what we're looking for is the number of participations of women in the top tournaments and their names. The number does not have to be equal to the names, of course.
Obviously. Shall we start? I think the names is trickier than people will think. I feel...
Two seem obvious.
Yeah, I think Shubodanidzhe probably played once.
Polgar obviously played
Yeah.
a couple. Hou Yifan has played in the top group at least once. I'm not sure if more than once, but I certainly recall one.
Yeah. And yeah, I think it's probably 3 on the names front. There like some other Georgian women may have played in the past, but I would bet specifically on Chiburdanidze playing at least once. But the overall number, Hoifan played.
Did she play twice?
Maybe she played twice.
One, but I'm
yeah,
not sure.
I think she played twice because I think that really weird game she lost to Magnus was not the year she lost, not the year I played, because we played the same year, 2018. I think she played once previously, but Judy played a decent amount of those. She did well in some of them.
She over under 5 maybe. Like, she must have played some.
Yeah, I would say 5 is a good over-under, and I would, if I had to bet, I would bet on over actually, rather than under, but I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, it looks like the Wikipedia boys are now closing in on names and numbers. Not sure who was the fastest. Maybe we should give it a little more time because I don't know the solution, but we're getting some very specific answers here. People are saying 10 Ho Polgar Chiburdanidze.
So I got the Chiburdanidze part right, which is good, but yeah. Well,
showing your age there. When did Chiburdanidze play?
I would say probably 80s. I don't know, but late 70s or early 80s would be my guess.
That's what I would have thought. And what number are we going with? There we're clueless. Yeah, we're thinking 2 Ho Yifan,
One
bunch by Polgar.
Yeah.
5, 1 7, 1 Chiburdanidze.
Yeah.
That would be 8. Maybe it's more by Polgar. It's hard to say. Okay, I think by now we have so many specific answers. Let's have a look. Answer 10 times. Gabrinashvili.
I was actually wrong about that. Yeah.
Wow, did you lead everyone astray? Did no one win because of you?
And Hoifan actually played 4 times. We
were also way off on Hoifan.
Way off on Hoifan. And 5, we got the 5 over under on Judith correctly, and we basically got everything else wrong. So, or at least I have. Yeah. So it was Nona, not Maya. My bad.
I don't know if we have a winner.
I think we do have a winner, and people are actually claiming they won. So I assume we do have a winner.
Not sure where you saw that. Anyway, moving on, we will have our research team. If no one won it, I apologize. Another chance is coming up. And we should mention again that this is only for Chess24 premium users in the Chess24 chat. So that question was tough. We're gonna have to make it easier. All right, back to chess maybe.
Yeah, back to chess is not a bad shout. Bishop b5 played, and I've seen in chat the mention of knight b5, and the streak might end today. So from that I deduce that the computers prefer knight b5 to bishop b4. I did mention knight b5 also looks very attractive, but I thought throwing bishop b4 in and then going knight b5 the next move was not a bad idea. Although, now that I think about it, and once again, this is a usual thing, when somebody gives you the answer, you can often at least try to reconstruct why. Bishop b4, maybe knight takes d4 is a move, surprisingly.
Let's look at knight b5. What goes where? Queen c6, bishop e4 does not work yet. So how do we win?
Well, just queen e7 is very strong, yeah. And queen c6 specifically was the reason why I was trying to include bishop b4, because I thought that is the only... Because here, let's say bishop b7 exists as a move. And I was trying to make sure this move didn't feature in the list of options for Magnus, but maybe it's just very strong anyway. And just briefly, because it might be a relevant tactic. If we go bishop b4, there is this option which I completely disregarded, but after c takes d4, there is this intermediary move, attacking the queen on a3, and then black has enough time to move the rook away from from the attack square. And obviously, if we don't get to play knight b5, our knight b5 idea becomes significantly weaker. So that might be the reason for I assume computers preferring the immediate knight jump.
Yeah, it's really not Magnus's tournament.
So far, yeah. And he had such a wonder year in 2019 that it does make you wonder if somehow, you know, Earth orbiting the Sun for one more time has, you know, played a role in...
He also usually likes Vike. Often you can blame it on Vike and dark and long days and long tournaments on. But this is his 10th year in a row. He's won it, what, 8 times? So it's not a Vike problem.
Yeah, and it's definitely his, you can maybe make an argument, his favorite hunting ground. He has been...
I'm not sure if it's his 10th year in a row. It might have been his 15th year, but he usually goes there, is what I'm trying to say, and happily.
Yeah. So, yeah, weird things happening with the world champion so far. And of course we shouldn't write him off today. The position, I mean, there's still plenty of pieces on the board and a lot of play, but once again, quite clearly troubled out of the opening. Today, I think largely of his own making, because I don't think he, like, I'm pretty sure he knows the theory after d5. He just decided not to play it.
Sure.
And that decision connected with a really weird d5, e5, knight d8 sequence, which I'm pretty sure was not intended when he was opting for d5. Yeah, led to a position that is hard to enjoy from the black side.
Yeah, let's see if Vichy can win this one. 8-12, not a great score for Vichy Anand, but still having beaten Magnus Carlsen 8 times in classical games. First of all, I'm not sure many people are close to that number, and secondly, Vichy also won't be afraid of Magnus if he feels he's better or winning.
No. If you give him a good position, he will, of course, be quite confident of his ability to convert it into a full point. He is down to 18 minutes, though. There has been a mention in chat that he is down to less than a minute for a move, and it will not be easy for him. But that was, I think, a few moves ago when he had like 29 minutes left, or somewhere there, or thereabouts. And it felt to me like it's too early to start talking about time travel issues. But this is now a bit of a mess, and he is down to 17.
Where, when, what? Yep.
Just I'm talking about the clock situation. Although I kind of underappreciated how many moves they actually made, because it feels like we've just come out of the opening here. Like, I mean, the position looks like we've just started simplifying after the very beginning of the opening phase, but in fact they are 14 moves away from the time control, and I had to look at my screen twice to convince myself of it, frankly.
So it looks like Vichy's in the driving seat here. Let's have a look at Jordan van Foreest, where knight d4, queen a4, rook a1 has been played. Not a move you're thrilled to make, I guess.
But yeah, it does create some questions centered around counterplay against the queen on a4. The queen on a4 doesn't have very many squares. The big question is, can we play e5? And currently, I think that takes f5 doesn't lose, which would be a drawback to that idea.
Bishop f5, g6, you have a check.
I do have this bishop e6 check, which is kind of very important there, and white is instantly okay.
e4, this is
knight e7, solves all of those problems. So yeah, I don't think this works instantly, and if we want to play e5, we might have to start with g6, which is actually not that unattractive, but it does give white time to put the queen on some kind of a useful square, maybe queen e2, e5, and then bishop c2 gains in strength. Question mark. Forces you to play queen a6. Let him go. Ah, actually, maybe I'm trying to figure out if I'm still better after b5 in that position, but that would already be, you know, a very committal idea which could backfire.
Right.
f4 wins after queen e2. We are being informed. Yeah, that's kind of.
Oh, finally.
That's relevant.
Always. How does it win? Here, here, here. No b5.
Probably, yeah. Because with the pin on the f6 a1 diagonal, this will work a lot better for black, of course. So if we cannot play queen e2, where does the queen go? No, but now we happy.
Argue f4 still exists, maybe.
Yeah, 4 is still looking very, very attractive. So
Also, these not bad, but maybe f4 just wins.
so what is the intended reply after g6 then? Maybe there isn't one. Maybe he's just making moves that he has to make and hoping Jordan starts going wrong somewhere.
We'll see. In the meantime, the Artemiev against So game has ended in a draw. No surprises there, other than that they actually made it to move 41. Maybe they thought they have to make 40 moves.
You never exactly know. We haven't looked at Alireza's game properly in a while. The b3 c4 I briefly mentioned earlier is now making an appearance. He is allowing c5 c4, but c5 c4 is an ugly move to make, and Jeffrey finally bites the bullet and goes d5. I'm pretty sure the idea is to meet it with e5. This has to be the most principled continuation, creating the threat of ef6, rook e7, and so on. How does black respond to that? Bishop e6, maybe? Just blocking the e-file and hoping that there is no way to improve. I mean, even this position after ef, rook f6, rook e5, I would like to play it with white, frankly. But maybe this is not as horrible as all that. Rook f8, I think I can play rook e1. I was hoping I can play rook e1 because of the back rank issues. But I understand I haven't created a threat yet, so maybe black can actually spend a tempo on something useful here. I don't know what that is though. Knight c8 maybe, just to make sure that nothing lands on e7. But yeah, it just feels like it's white who is still driving all the action here.
Yep, Alireza. If he wins another one, no matter what Jordan does, he takes over the sole lead now that Wesley has drawn his game. But still, got a long way to go. Fabi?
It feels like Fabi is trying his hardest to equalize, and I mean he might manage, but maybe not. Maybe knight b4 is a winning attempt, because knight d7 is an indication that Dubov is preparing to play e5, but e5 c6 is bugging me here a little bit.
Yeah. Black not better, is he?
No, not better, yeah. But no, then, of course, there's the... Hang on. Will I ever say something that actually makes sense? I was going to say knight b4, knight b8 is an option for Dubov, but there's a large number of questions about that, yeah, and starting with knight takes d5, of course.
Maybe that is what he wants. But doesn't look like a great transformation, does it?
Yeah. Not enjoying it greatly. Knight c7 followed by d5 discovered check is a huge threat, and generally, why have we returned an extra pawn here? So what is the intended reply to knight b4? He just wants to play e6 and say that the a6 pawn is currently not hanging because rook a8, and I want to play, I don't know, knight b8 next move and just get it over to c6. But then probably white plays something like bishop f4 and says I have tremendous positional compensation.
Yeah, fair. Doesn't look like Fabi has anything to worry about, does it?
Probably not, no.
Other than pawn count. All right, Jordan did not play g6. Take that piece.
Yeah, a bit surprising because of just how difficult it was, simply tactically to protect against the threat of f4.
He's trying, I guess, to vacate this square for the queen. But I guess this does not win material.
Well, even here f4, but you've given white so many additional tactical options. Like they might not work though. f4, bishop f4, queen e6. Black just plays bishop f7, I think, and takes the rook on a1. Might still be.
96. We also just take stuff from fe.
Eventually, I think we end up with extra material. And for some of the newer viewers of this program, we generally don't switch the computer on. If the chat actively tells us what the answer is, we might know, but we don't actually know if g6 was stronger than bishop e8, but I really, really liked it. I thought it was very difficult for white to even reply to it properly.
All right. I also read that in Firouzja's game, g5 is a strong move.
Whoa. That's something that's incredibly easy to miss. Jeffrey is very, very sharp tactically. He might see it, but on general grounds, it's just such an easy move to completely miss.
What's the point of the knight of 3 fe, yeah?
I guess Jeffrey, GF, I mean.
No, GF, yeah.
Yeah. No, FE rook e5, I don't think we've achieved anything. So I think it's actually FE. I mean, I can't speak.
It's okay. GF Xiong.
That's exactly why I was having trouble there. But also, how clear is it that this is good? Like I played knight h4 back, and I claim that you've ruined your kingside structure for
Standard king's gambit position.
Yeah, one measly pawn, and I'm not bothered.
German chessboy is saying g6 was -4. Bishop e8 is only -2.5. Yeah, -2.5 is normally good enough. If he's calculated, he's winning a piece. With no counterplay, talking about the Jordan game. Not blaming him too much yet. I don't know, g5. Tough move to make.
Yeah, very, very tough, because White's entire game plan here is centered around saying I will be at least attempting to give mate on the king side, and playing g5 in the face of those odds is difficult. Vishy has played knight b5 in the meantime. He did spend some time on it, but eventually the move did appear on the board. He's down to 11 minutes though, so...
We should always say it's plus increments, so it's never that dramatic because I do get 30 seconds per move.
Yeah, so in actual fact it's like 17 minutes, maybe 18 effective time.
Yeah, the question we talked about before by Sachin Roy, queen, what queen c6?
But I think the problem is bishop d7 f3 is just a very very efficient way of covering everything, and it also creates a threat of bishop e4. So it's not just a defensive move; it's also a move with a.
Is that what you would describe as a multi-purpose move?
I would. I like long words.
Is it multi-purpose or multi-purpose?
I think it depends on where you live.
I live in Germany.
Then you can do whatever you please, pretty much.
I'm not sure that's how it works.
Well, why not pretend anyway? So it's a good thing to try and pretend.
The Americans say multi?
No, I think it's actually multi, or some kind of a I sound in the States, and because I think the anti is very much UK-US divide. and I always get mixed up on where I'm supposed to say what. And the chat does confirm that both are okay, but I really do think it's a geographical thing.
All right. Queen c6 played by Mr. Magnus. How does this continue?
And Sachin Roy says, Compi wants bishop h6 or bishop d1, both of which look insane to me. On the previous move, yeah. I actually don't disagree. Although bishop h6, you can actually find the the reasoning for. Bishop d1 is a difficult move to make. Bishop h6 actually attacks the bishop on e5 and also creates a threat of bishop e4. This one is quite human. This one I can get behind.
Vishy, which one can you get behind?
Yeah, 9 minutes and counting, but currently I think bishop h6 just wins, because I just fail to find any way for black to continue. Maybe bishop b7, bishop b4, queen takes e4, but your pieces continue hanging after that, like takes, rook e1, every single piece is hanging. It still doesn't feel fun or interactive at all. Okay, bishop d6, we're being informed, is a reply to bishop h6, which doesn't lose material immediately, which makes sense. But the position after knight d6 and, well, any recapture is extremely unpleasant for black. Just flat out bad, I would say.
Magnus, come on. What are you doing? What's wrong? Do you think he's sick, maybe? Maybe he has a cold.
It's not impossible, but I think if there are any excuses to be made, I'd much rather he made them himself.
I'm speculating. I have no idea. So you want him to make excuses for his performance?
Well, he generally doesn't. He generally just says,
Exactly.
he generally just says, I
Our
played
job.
horribly. And
What is wrong?
but something is definitely off, and this is not the Magnus we've seen in.
Do you
in
think he's
2019.
suffering from the switch from orange juice to chocolate milk?
And Vishy played a move we did not consider.
Rook b4. It's not on the list of 2 computer moves we were given. But it does threaten bishop e4.
It does create the same threat, but how do we reply to this?
No. Confusion.
Confusion reigns. Is f5 now a move? No, bishop e6, I'm just happy with white regardless. I just take and I'm jumping for joy.
No. And I'm reading down to 0-0 from +2, so Compi not happy.
Yeah, Compi objects to
Drama.
this quite strenuously, but still looks quite attractive for white from a purely human standpoint. Bishop b4 is a huge threat. Knight c5 I think instantly loses to rook c4, or at least I thought so. But there's actually bishop d6 there in the end. So maybe you can play knight c5. That would be a bit upsetting if you could play knight c5 in this position and not get punished for it.
Magnus still has time. That's the one thing. He's always matched well in this tournament. The clock, or you could argue he's been playing too fast, but he's always had a lot of time on the clock at the very least. Well, yeah, Vish is down to 8 minutes. They are currently on move 28, so 12 moves until the time control on move 40, when every player gets another 50 minutes extra. Exciting. And Bjorn also has not cashed in any pieces just yet, as far as I can tell. Queen h3, knight to g6.
Yeah, I think it's a bit too early to say he's bungling it, but
He's not converting at the first chance, and often the longer the game goes.
yeah, giving like a second and a third life to somebody like Nikita might eventually start backfiring. Position still looks nice for black, of course. Black is a pawn up in the knight on g6. There's all kinds of jumps you now have to think about. But yeah, if there was an option to win a piece instead, that probably should have been preferred.
Nikita looks so angry even on the thumbnail. It scares me a little. About Nikita, this, I guess it's a language barrier thing. Very often I hear from Russian-speaking sources that he's hilarious and very smart as a troll, both on social media and in real life. Can you confirm, deny? Can you give us some examples of his trolling that he could be doing? What's going on there?
There's not. I mean, I can definitely confirm that he is very sharp and very witty and funny around friends. But famous examples of his trolling, I mean, his Twitter is actually dedicated to tweeting victory pictures when he wins something and commenting on things to do with football, or for our American viewers, soccer. And there's not the tone of trolling going on there, but in general...
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was on Twitter or anywhere. I had the feeling I was missing it, but maybe it's not in public.
Yeah.
Sad.
Now, some of my longest standing, shall we call them bits, are products of Nikita's famously dry sense of humor. But
wow, you're stealing Nikita's bits? Like that Indian guy that is doing Anthony Jeselnik's act? I spent the last 2 years looking for my girlfriend's killer, but no one's willing to do it. There you go.
That's a good one-liner, actually. Some moves have been played in the Anand Carlsen game. The move Magnus chose after rook b4 is not what people were suggesting. So I suspect he is now back to being at least slightly worse. But who knows what's going on? I think it's become a bit of a melee, and. Yeah, I mean, I told you that some time ago, but I mean, we have Nikita to thank for my own personal penguin lore.
The penguin narrative I'm aware of.
Yeah, so...
Do
And
you know that penguins are monogamous? They find a partner, stick to them for life.
I was not aware of that. I also think that those things about the
Can you confirm or deny that from your observations?
it appears to be true. No, actually, that it doesn't appear to be true from me observing the wild.
That's what I was getting at.
But what I wanted to say is that the same used to be said about swans, and that turned out to be a lie. Swans don't actually mate for life. They are swingers.
A lot of swan lies out there.
Yeah.
Like Jesus punching one. Never happened. All right, this Jorn game, I don't know. I guess he's still in charge. It feels like he was drifting a little bit. Vichy, let's get back to this.
Vichy is a pawn up now, and I think bishop b7 was not a prescribed reply to rook b4. Knight c7 is what people were suggesting in chat, and knight c7 did look quite interesting, but it's all in the past now, and it does seem like Vichy has not only just an extra pawn, but a reasonably safe extra pawn to boot. Although, do we just go knight f4 here and claim we have a good positional compensation?
So this is how it went down. Apparently there's no scary jumps. This is nice though. Knight what?
Knight
F4?
I was arguing for knight f4, yeah.
Directement?
Yeah, exactement.
Ah, parlez-vous le français?
No. And white does have the extra pawn on the queen side, but the structure is broken up, and the bishop will be quite strong. So it feels to me like black should have very, very decent drawing chances in some kind of position like that. There is rook a8, rook takes e7 here, but it's a bit scary because you might get mated on the back rank there.
Yeah.
Like queen d5 scares me quite a bit. Also rook a3, rook a2 is probably a draw, but I think queen d5 might win, which is a severe drawback to the entire thing.
Yeah. Looks like Magnus is back. Vichy is not a swan, so he will be upset about the breakup.
Yeah, bishop f4. An interesting choice by Magnus. Same idea, but he really wants to give mate. So he wants the knight to eventually land on f4 and create, cry havoc and let's leave the dogs of war on some such. But I'm not sure how much letting sleep of the dogs of war is actually possible in a position like this with such limited material.
Did I miss a reference? Smart stuff?
No.
No. But bishop f4, apparently, according to Peter Made Me Sub, is more precise and has been played. This is more of a Magnus-y position now, finally. The pieces are going somewhere.
Mm-hmm. And I think he, by this point, once again, my favorite hobby horse. We no longer have to think about protecting the pawn on a4. So all of our pieces gain an additional layer of activity because we can switch to just generating counterplay.
Who do you think is the favorite right now?
Draw.
I understand, but if you had to pick a winner. Because I have a feeling it's the first time maybe in the game or after the opening that the answer could be Magnus.
Yeah, I'm leaning Magnus because I think, in particular against 6 minutes, it's just very difficult for white to coordinate. Well, I mean, draw is an overwhelming favorite.
Sure.
I'd bet quite heavily on Vichy never ever losing this position with white. But yeah, I think there's just objectively by this point enough compensation for black not to have to worry very much. I think we take on a8 to get the rook away from the d file, and we play queen b3. Although bishop b3 knight f4 is annoying, right? It's just allowing.
Yes, this is not the intention.
No, this is not the intention. But I kind of blundered knight f4 here. He has taken on a8, so we'll see which square he prefers here for the queen. There is obviously the option of playing queen b4 and just giving up the pawn on a2 to make sure there's no threats on the other flank. But I mean, it's an equal position. With it's an equal position, black enjoys more than white for sure, because white still has to make very sure that the knight doesn't land on f4 or the pawn on f2 is not attacked in some kind of a uncomfortable fashion here.
All right, we'll see what Vichy decides to do, but it could be that now it's damage control mode and draw impeding. Has Xiong played g5? No, he has not. E5.
He's played bishop e6, which is a move I mentioned.
And still g5?
No, here I think we are really asking for trouble if you do that. Like knight f3, knight h5 is an immediate worrisome thing that comes to mind. Also f5 here needs to be calculated. There's many things here which could be a problem.
Lawrence Trent is saying, so guess where I'll be at 20.23 tonight.
Hamburg.
Yeah, strip club has already been guessed, so that's probably not the answer. He's probably gonna be arriving in Hamburg. Why, Lawrence? Such a tease. He's saying, actually going to be in Hamburg. Unfortunately, can't pop by. It's heartbreak.
How about tomorrow, Lawrence? Tell us you can't pop by tomorrow.
Please.
That was a bit unnecessarily harsh, maybe, but...
No, you're always welcome here, Lawrence. If you have time tomorrow, we'd be excited to have you join the show. Even if it is only for a small moment in time. He's saying possibly. Wow. So you're telling me there's a chance.
Exciting times ahead.
F5 played by Jeffrey.
Yeah,
This is
Jeffrey.
like the opposite of G5.
Yeah, Jeffrey decided that getting mated on the king side is not high on his list of priorities today. But now white has a very safe advantage, provided he doesn't allow a good version of d5, d4 break. I would actually start by instantly defending against it somehow, either knight f3 or rook a d1. You want to make sure that bishop on e6 remains locked in.
Do you think if Lawrence stops by, he could tell his getting roofied story in person? Is that something you'd be interested in?
Very much so. He is playing in the Oberliga versus Prates.
How the mighty have fallen.
Exactly.
Lawrence Trent is not third league material.
I don't like where Visha is going with this, but maybe this is still perfectly under control. There's just not enough material for Magnus to create too many concrete threats. But this rook on f3 is such an awkward piece. Like I just go, let's say e5 here, and claim that I have tremendous positional compensation. e5 knight d6 though. Maybe queen e4. My initial reaction was to play queen e4, but I didn't like knight d4, but I can play e5 after knight d4. Maybe this is the way to go. And queen e4 played by Magnus. The thing is, there's currently, for instance, a threat of queen e1 and knight e2, which might win the game on the spot if it's allowed, right?
This rook looks very clumsy.
Yeah,
I have no idea how the tactics work out, but I'd be scared.
I don't think this has been a good transition from Vishy. He goes queen h2 very quickly, obviously sidestepping the queen e1 knight e2 business. Queen e5 comes to mind, but I don't think we should be we should be allowing g3 so easily. I can't find any tactical solutions afterwards. It has to be said that white is maybe a couple of moves away from, that's an important tactic, not just a cute tactic, but also.
Not sure it is, because we also have this, but pawn weak. So
Well, I am a former candidate, Rad de Chambre, so you make your own conclusions.
which question were you answering?
Do I consider myself a legend? Obviously. From the answer, I think it was easy to deduce what the question was.
Laurent is saying in the chat, so sharp, Jan. Ugh, I can't curse. Thank you, Laurent. That means a lot to me.
What's happening here? I mean, Nikita is actually giving up more material here, right? I mean, I can take on f4. This pawn has just been put there and I can just take it. But I guess there was just no better options.
I don't know why this makes me laugh so much. Why tell us? Get your avocado.
Yeah, also there are avocados here in the office. There won't be by the time this day is done, because I will take them with me when I leave, but there are currently avocados in here.
All right, can we take the pawn? What's going on?
I'm pretty sure we can. It's just that I think Nikita did not have any better options and he's trying to mix it up somehow. I have no idea what threat he's creating. I mean, queen takes a3 is also something I would be interested in, right? Although, yeah, I think I would be. I'm not that worried about knight b5, knight d6. But yeah, I'm confused as to what is supposed to be the... I think maybe he wants to take and then go b5, c6 and pretend he has a passed pawn.
Maybe he does have a passed pawn.
Well, that's why he's pretending. Oh, yeah, well, maybe not. Shouldn't be enough, but I think he's clutching at straws here, Nikita. He doesn't really have any good options, so he's choosing between the bad ones.
Wow, Anish mentioned me on Twitter. So touching. But I don't get his logic. He's saying, I learned to play the Marshal from the wonderful series of @GM Jan Gustafsson, who from now on will kindly share 50% of his royalties with me. Doesn't he owe me money for...
I think he's hoping you can barely read and definitely can't count, I think is what is going on there.
Those are both accurate, but I'm also very cheap. Anyway, thank you, Anish. And I greatly enjoyed your game and your idea today with this. For us martial nerds, might not be a big deal to the rest of the world, just another draw. But it's big news that a top player plays Queen h4 and not Bishop f5, which is a much better move. But this opens a new chapter in martial debates, and I wish that Jan Krzysztof had played knight d2, so we could have seen the full scope of Giri's homework. The higher space is saying, I mean, if he is using your stuff and advertising your own 50%, I agree. Oof. He also looks like a lawyer, or at least he has a star there. So, ugh.
Maybe a sheriff. I don't know about a lawyer, possibly. Some kind of a sheriff.
Isn't that the same thing?
Yeah,
or are these things separated? Like,
sheriff is the law, but lawyers are, I think, a whole separate category. I don't think sheriffs.
Lawyers are abogados.
Yes, exactly. I don't think they are as sheriffs are not as universally disliked as lawyers are. So I think sheriffs would object greatly to that comparison.
Yeah, I've watched that. Moving on. Not gonna start any beef with sheriffs. Vichy.
I think maybe Vichy actually stabilized here. I can't find any way to generate more play here for Magnus. I'm still pretty sure that you can equalize this position with black if you choose just to aim for that. But I think maybe we've undersold Vichy's position a little bit there.
Fair enough. All right, I need a quick break. First of all, I need a coffee. Secondly, I need to plug my Chessable series because apparently I have to give Anish half, so I at least make some. We'll be back in a couple minutes with the finale of this game. Even though now when's the time travel? No, it's still a while, right? Yeah, it's still 45 minutes maybe. Yeah, I think we have time for a coffee break.
Sure.
Back in a minute. Thank you guys for watching. See you soon. Bye.
Question on Twitter from
E5. It's E5 Patzers.
I
A
should not
complete
have pronounced
repertoire
that.
against one
that was a bit of a
e4
trap,
based
yeah?
on one e5, now available to study with
For those
Chessable's
of you who are
unique
new to
move
chess,
trainer technology.
It might look like
The
B8-3
backbone
is
is the
an
Marshall
illegal move
Gambit
because
against
white
the
advances
Spanish,
pawn 2
with
squares, not
3
one.
knight
But
f6
it's still something we
against
call
the
en
Italian.
passant.
Jan Gustafsson
And you can
has
do that, but you have
revisited
to
all
do it
these
instantly.
lines he has
You can't
played
wait
for
for a
20
move.
years
Let's say
and
playing
worked
king
on as a
e7, king
second
b2.
for Peter
Now try,
Lecco and Magnus
because-
Carlsen, amongst others, with the help of the most powerful engines out there. Leela Zero has
This is a
Stockfish
software
10.
glitch? I'm pretty sure
This
there's
has
not
led to
allowed.
many new discoveries and a repertoire ready to master on Chessable that can serve the student for a long chess career.
Maybe e4 doesn't exist after all.
E5. It's E5 patzers. All right, boys and girls, Peter's gone. He's on a quest for coffee. So let's use that limited time window we have to get in all the cheating we can. I switched on the engine. We won't tell him when he comes back. Please, this will remain our little secret. Don't tell Mommy what we're doing here. We want to know. And the engine currently says that Vichy Anand is better again against Magnus Carlsen. It looks like Vichy has stabilized after King H2, knight d5, c4, queen e5, g3, knight f6. And it gives an advantage of 0.73. It looks to me, but who cares if we have an engine running? Like Magnus should still hold because the pawn's weak, blah, blah, blah. But certainly Vichy, the side pressing now. Then in the Jorn game, you see the bar is literally dropping. And the computer says -3, which corresponds to the number of pawns that Jordan has been snacking. So it does look like Jorn van Foreest should convert, did not exactly take the fastest route. But 3 pawns are 3 pawns. Is it 2 or 3? I'm not great at counting. It's only 2, yeah? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 versus 5. So it's only 2, but that should be enough here. There is no real counterplay. For Vitiugov, Jorn van Foreest still doing great. Then, in the game between Fabian Caruana and Daniel Dubov, I believe Dubov is still a pawn up, but the computer sees enough compensation. It actually says white is slightly better. If I put his pawn here on g5, and I absolutely did not have an engine running. Those were just my thoughts. Peter Svidler is back, ladies and gentlemen. We has coffees.
Well, you has coffees.
You didn't get yourself a coffee?
I has no coffees because we've run out of coffees.
How did we run out of coffees?
Machine blinked no beans at me and I don't know where they live.
Oh, sorry, I know where they live. Do you want to take over and I'll get you a coffee?
It's all good. I ate something from the fridge and that works as a kind of a solid coffee for me.
Up to you.
Yeah, it's all good. Don't worry.
I'm happily gonna go there. Do you want a coffee? You want to say that? So
Yes, okay.
there we go.
2 small ones, please, and really.
Come on, no extra wishes.
And the amount of milk in the cup is the absolute maximum amount of milk. No more milk, please. Anyway, on that note, what's happening where? Give him some coffee. I want to see Svidler cheating. Svidler is not going to be cheating. Svidler will, as usual, flail about, trying to work things out for himself. Before I left, I've seen the suggestion in chat that in this position after King H2, G6, G5 was extremely strong. I guess once again reestablishing maybe some hints of this, and just generally supporting the knight on f4, perhaps defending against queen b4. But Magnus did not play that. He played knight d5, allowing, I think, Vichy to sort of restabilize. And now white is definitely, I think, out of any kind of danger zone. And I don't know if Vichy can fight for any significant advantage. Engine still on, by the way. No, that's just the bar. The moment you switch it off, the bar stays. That's not how things work here. The thing is, you can't get the bar to not display what it displayed the last moment it was switched on. But the engine is very, very assuredly off right now. And the bar swung? No, it didn't. The bar stays where it is. And Vichy goes queen c2. Yeah, it feels like actually this whole sequence was not very good for Magnus at all, because now white is hinting at rook e3 ideas. And generally, this setup is a lot more solid than the setup White had before when the pawns appeared to be hanging. This is now quite a solid setup that Vishy can try to build upon. So we'll probably leave that aside. They made move 40. Why is Xiong blitzing? Is the question in chat. I'm not sure. And there's been a lot of developments there. I don't know if Jan covered that material. After knight 3h6, b3, b4 is a very strong move positionally because quite clearly White wants to fight for the d4 square. And Jeffrey, I'm pretty sure anticipated that because he went for this tactical operation, which I suspect he thought was fine for him, because otherwise he could have tried preparing for the b3, b4 move with, well, knight c8 is something that comes to mind first, perhaps, to have the reply b6 to b4. But anyway, currently they have this position on the board: queen d2, queen a4, knight e2, knight b4, knight e g4. I guess Black would like to play knight c6, to which Alireza probably replies with rook e g1, simply supporting the knight on d4, hoping to play queen f2 probably next move to unpin himself and just to play a position where he has an extra pawn, and I suspect great winning chances. How is the weather in Leningrad? My wife has just sent me pictures of some garden flowers in bloom, which is not something that is supposed to be happening in January, so unseasonably warm, I would say.
I'm letting you down again.
Shrug emoji.
I thought you just didn't know where the beans were.
You mean
Turns out
in
there
the
were no
cupboard?
beans.
In the cupboard, I did check that. I've been to this office before. I kind of know where they normally are, but they weren't there.
I'm gone. But I will make the heroic gesture.
No.
Forfeiting my coffee.
No, that's
and
a very-
drinking this Fritz Coke.
This is a very milky coffee made specifically for you.
Ah, it's a German coffee. Okay. What was that Karpov story you told?
It's slightly offensive, right?
Is it?
I don't know.
Just to Germans. It's fine if Germans come.
That is a very well established fact. Yes, I think it was the story definitely takes place in Dos Hermanos. I'm trying to figure out if that happened the year we both played there, and Karpov actually beat me like a drum in that tournament, just destroyed me in the Grunfeld. That game is featured in the in a video about my 1999 Grunfeld experiences. Very instructive game by Karpov, and Jordan seemingly is completely winning now, which is not unexpected, but he is finally getting somewhere. And the bar did jump now, which is kind of weird because the engine is off. People were giving me a bit of a hard time because I said I'm not going to be using the engine, and the bar kept on doing the up and down.
No,
thing.
I didn't touch it. I don't know. The bar just went crazy.
Story checks out. Anyway, Karpov at some point shows up at the reception of the hotel where the Dos Hermanos tournaments used to be held. Those tournaments are sadly gone. This is one of the losses the tournament.
Hotel Anibal?
In Dos Hermanos? No, I think.
No, that's Linares. Sorry.
That's Linares. It was called something else. I can't remember. It was not that Anibal is a necessarily bad hotel, but the one in Dos Hermanos was better. So Karpov shows up at the reception, and he has some kind of a business meeting there. We're talking maybe late 90s, and asks for a coffee. And the waiter goes away, says yes, sir, and or perhaps si, senor, and goes away and brings him a coffee. And Karpov takes one sip and doesn't spit it out exactly, but like makes a face and says, "What is this?" And the waiter says, "Well, coffee, senor." And Karpov says, "No, really isn't." And at that point, the waiter makes a really embarrassed face and says, "You are not from Germany, sir." Karpov said, "No, whatever gave you that idea?" And the waiter kind of like just forcefully takes the cup away from Karpov, says, "I'm very, very sorry, sir," and returns with a proper cup of espresso. And I'm so sorry, sir. I thought you were German. And yeah, that's a long-winded story about German coffee.
I'm not quite sure why. Do we have you noticed this? Is there a culture, do we drink more, do we put more milk in coffee, or is coffee with milk more popular drink here? Which one is it?
I don't think it's the milk. I think it's just generally what is in the US, I think, described as filter, right?
Filter coffee. Yeah.
Just like this huge, vat of coffee that gets reheated and reheated over and over again over the course of a day.
That's very much a part of German culture.
Yeah, and that coffee is not great. I mean, it's if nothing else is on offer, you will drink that, but like espresso is better.
Got it. What do you call it? It's not exactly French press, right? It's maybe generated by a French press and then reheated.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the original state of it is. It's like an Americano, which just never goes away throughout the day. It may start its way as a slightly watered down Americano, but it clearly isn't Americano by the end of it.
Americano. Magnus was in some trouble again, or maybe not, or maybe.
Yeah, I think he is now. I think, well, definitely our, what's it? There's a term for it in cricket which I forget. Not a specifically cricket term, but they now started, in order to attract younger audiences, they have now started. Exactly. They have started using the and there's a
we're chess commentators. That's so funny.
There's a name for that specific gizmo which I am now struggling to remember, but the thing that shows the probability of a side winning at any given any given time.
Engine bar, geniuses.
Well, not in chess and cricket. I mean, and it's something ometer. I'm pretty sure. And I want to call it a vinometer, but it really isn't. But the vinometer definitely swung very, very heavily towards Vichy now. Magnus is not winning this anymore, and Vichy might.
Yeah. Draw probably still a favorite, but
yeah, I think
down,
I think draw remains favored, but White very heavily favored as a side that might win.
What's wrong with Magnus? Not only
Winviz, exactly purple patch, yeah.
Not only did he get a bad position, then when it looked like we're back in Magnusville, something also went wrong. Or maybe there was nothing here.
No, as I think I mentioned on air, but you weren't here. You were searching for the beans. Chat informed us that G5 was quite liked by engines here, and
G5, huh?
Yeah, which actually, if you look at it, makes perfect sense. You want to support the knight on f4, and you want to make sure that some kind of a move like queen b4 can be just met by taking on a2. I think this specifically is what Magnus played knight d5 to aim against. He wanted to stop White from playing queen b4, but G5 was a much better version of doing that, and seemingly the engines were preferring black quite significantly. I saw a minus 1.2 figure being bandied about. I don't know if that was Sese or a weaker engine.
All right, let's do a brief tour through the other boards. It looks like, yeah, they reached move 40 in the Magnus game, 41 actually. Jordan van Foreest still has not made the time control, but the good news for him is he has a lot of time and a bunch of extra pawns.
Yeah, three pawns up here, and yeah, shouldn't be very difficult. You probably cannot take on c5 with the rook if White takes, but why would you want to? Yeah, not even probably b6 just queens the pawn here. Not very difficult.
Yeah, you can probably figure that out. So what do? Do you go BC?
Yeah, we go BC, and b6 creates no threats. a6 really also creates no threat, and I mean,
sooner or later, these guys will.
Yeah, and I mean, just generally, the moment the king arrives on d6, the game is over. Or I think in more practical terms, the moment we reach move 40, the game is over.
Yep. Caruana, Dubov. And yeah, Caruana still a pawn down.
But doing seemingly, I think it's White who's playing for a win here. I don't know if he has any way to make progress, but I think there were a number of moments where Dubov could have played knight b8 and didn't. But the thing about knight b8, as I eventually realized, is that it doesn't actually create a threat of knight c6. Because knight 6 will be met by rook takes b5. Let's say somewhere it started. No, he actually had it on b8. I'm lying. I think it went back. And this is sort of the point. You play knight b8, and white just ignores it. And you cannot actually do that, or at least it needs to be very precisely calculated. Maybe sometimes this types of counterplay might be enough, but my guess is probably no. And then you just lose because you've given up 2 pieces for rook and haven't actually generated any play for it. So he is now more or less reduced to passively defending this position and hoping that white has no way in. c6 probably always quite well met by knight b6, so that is not a threat and will not become a threat for a while. But yeah, he's been just playing rook a7, rook a8 for a while now, just more or less passing, and now switch to king f7, king g7 passes, which maybe he wants to play h6 actually. I think it might make sense for him strategically to just get the h pawns off the board so that you never end up with a backward h7 pawn in some endgame.
So we still think draw favorite. How's Alireza doing?
Alireza doing very well, and I was arguing for rook e1, but he played rook a1, not worried about giving up the pawn on a2, and I think it's the correct decision. Because the rooks on e1 and g1 are quite clearly way more active than g1 and a1. And right now, maybe e6 is an immediate threat, and in more positional terms, even, let's say, taking on c6 and putting a rook on d6 is extremely attractive for white. So yeah, it feels like Alireza might be on +3 after this round and leading the tournament outright, which would be quite something.
Shall we do another quiz today?
Yeah, let's do another quiz.
Can't do it directly. And I don't have a fancy graphic, but Techyon will work incredibly hard. Generating something. Ugh, this doesn't work. Techyon is an idiot. That's a pity. But we will do another quiz. Eventually.
Sooner or later, a new quiz will appear. A wild quiz appeared and promised more people a 3 months premium extension. And this time we might actually wait for people to provide us with correct answers in chat before telling them what the correct answer is.
Yeah, it's a bit of a pity. The program might just have crashed. That's what you get for trying to do one good deed. Everything falls down. Sad.
Very, very sad. Has it actually crashed?
I don't know, I can't move this. Can we move pieces? Can't even see.
We'll have to rely on chat to tell us whether the stream is still ongoing and whether things are moving on their screen.
I think it is, but I still can't get rid of this giant spider blocking our view. So Jordan took another pawn just for funsies.
Yeah.
G4, F, G4.
For, let's say, fits and giggles, although we all know it's not fits. This is very upsetting.
Yeah, there's very little I can do. The stream apparently is fine, I just can't touch it up.
Is there a way to... Nope, that didn't help.
Even Tech Peter.
And in Jordan's game, there's actually some striking developments because we completely missed that idea. And why didn't this exist in a previous position? Is now my question. Rook takes c5 played by Nikita. Why wasn't this good on the previous position? Also, who is better now? I have so many questions. B6 does appear to actually well, win the rook. Maybe not queen that pawn, but win the rook for it.
Ugh.
Why did we have to include g4 and fg4 is a whole other question though.
Maybe he missed it.
And then he refound it himself.
So rook c5 doesn't help. Bishop c5, b6.
No, we
b6.
we
We've covered that topic.
Yeah, we covered that material. So yeah,
bc, b6.
I mean, you can threaten mates along the first rank, but I mean, we can play h3 or maybe rook a1, rook b1 here. Maybe this is what he didn't like. Oh,
e5.
bishop b5, d4.
d4, yeah.
d4 and then rook a1, rook b1. So that's the reasoning. So that's a very nasty cheapo then that Nikita spotted. And Jordan did not.
Jordan is probably not amused. Has not blitzed out his reply. I just missed it.
Yeah, I mean he has so many pawns that he probably isn't worse, but might even still be better.
Probably not
Arguably.
winning anymore.
Yeah, but it's very possible that he's not winning anymore, and that would be extremely painful. That game he will rue not winning. As we continue having extremely weird.
Seems to be no way to get rid of this. Come on.
And actually, I suspect White might just have a draw here because we play b7 and then we don't actually play b8, but we continue chasing the black rook along the back rank, and that might hold for Nikita at the very least. What a
Oof, I feel bad for Jordan.
yeah, that will be a very painful turnaround for the young Dutchman. This game should never have slipped from his grasp.
It didn't feel like it did really. Here,
Yeah, but here
after
he-
g4, did he actually blunder with fg4, or is this threat already hard to parry?
No, there should be a way to, like, you can definitely play bishop e8 here, for instance. The question, I mean, you have to give up some of your material, and maybe bishop d7 here. Yeah, I mean, it's an ugly way to play, but you still, at the final count, you still will be 2 pawns up, and in this position, I think you should win quite comfortably, right?
I don't know.
So yeah, I think maybe he thought g4 was some kind of a desperate ploy of a man who has no chances, and it's not exactly true here. Yeah, Nikita has found his cheapo, and as I said, I'm not even sure he's worse. Might be completely fine.
I have no way of resolving this very weird tech issue we have. So we have a choice. We can do the rest of the show blindfold, or we can restart the thing, which would mean the show is gone for a minute or two. Oof, it's tough.
It is a tough
choice.
shot, but if it's technically possible to restart the event, because that used to be a problem in the past, I think that probably is the better of the two unfortunate options, and we do apologize for all this. This was not the intended outcome.
Nah.
What else is still going on apart from the...
I'm asking for tech help. 1 second.
Sure. I'm talking to, assuming stream is still live, I was trying to
Yeah, streams out.
talk to the viewers whilst you were typing. So there is the Caruana Dubov game still ongoing. There's actually still quite a bit of action still going on, right? This weird endgame, and Dubov decided to play h5, not h6, saying, yes, I agree with you about the backward h pawn, but I don't want to trade anything along the h file because it might offer white an avenue of progress. Alireza, we assume, is still quite a bit better against Jeffrey, and there have been how many? 2 or 3 draws already? Wesley drew. There was also a martial draw in the Dudagiri, and and Yangyi also drew against Kovalev by this point. This was not the result yet when we last saw that game, but we kind of expected it to happen.
Yeah, we've been ignoring this, but there was not much going on ever since Yangyi solved his small problems.
So yeah, 4 games still ongoing and quite exciting ones in that, and we do have to make the hard decision.
All right, I'm being advised that I should end the show very briefly, and we'll be back any minute at least on the Twitch thingy here, because there's not much to free us from this blindfold, and we want to be able, you know, to move pieces and all the good stuff. So back hopefully in a minute. This is exciting. Apologies. Also, I'm not quite sure when it's gonna zoom out because I can't hit the mute button or any of those. Can't really hit much.